This special meeting of the Judson Board of Trustees is hereby called to order at 5:30 p.m. I am very pleased you have taken the time to join us this evening. In compliance with the State Government Code on Open Meetings, tonight's agenda has been appropriately posted. These proceedings are being video and audio recorded and will become part of Judson's permanent legal record. In order that the tape adequately reflects these proceedings, please silence your mobile devices and refrain from talking while others are speaking. Once again, I extend to each of you a sincere welcome from the entire school board. Thank you for your interest in Judson ISD. We have established a quorum, and I will call roll. Okay, you can mark your attendance. Proceed. Okay, Mrs. Poteet had a family commitment tonight, and we had scheduled this last minute, so we have 6 members present. All right, first on our agenda is public comment. The next item on our agenda is the public comment period. This is a time for the citizens, staff, or students to provide their comments to the board. A meeting that is open to the public under the Act is one that the public is entitled to attend. However, the Act does not give the public a right to speak at such meetings, except to address their grievances through the proper channels. As a courtesy to the public, the Judson Independent School District Board of Trustees allows time for public comment. Statements and questions from the audience will not be permitted during other portions of this meeting. So please sign up for public audience if you have comments to present. To have your comments heard tonight, your name and the topic of your comments must be written on the sign-in sheet prior to the start of the meeting, which is located in the rear of the meeting room. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes to complete his or her comments. As a presiding officer, I will strictly enforce that time limit. Also, profanity, yelling, inappropriate, uncivil, or discriminatory comments will not be permitted. In accordance with Judson ISD Board Policy BED Local, in the event your comment, in my judgment as the presiding officer, constitutes a complaint or charge against an employee or officer, it will be necessary for me to interrupt you, ask you to stop, and direct you to seek your resolution of your complaint through the district's appropriate formal grievance policy. DGBA for employee complaints, FNG for student or parent complaints, or GF for public complaints. By law, the Judson Independent School District Board of Trustees cannot lawfully discuss, deliberate, or make comments or make a decision on any matter raised in the public comment period, which is not specifically listed on the board agenda for this meeting. If you have any handouts to distribute to the board, please hand them directly to the board secretary, to the trustees, who is located next to the podium. Since this is a special board meeting, comments will be limited to the agenda items, and so thank you for writing down your agenda item on your comment card. With those cautions in mind, we will now be glad to hear the general comments. So, Ms. Lauren, I mess up your name every time I say it. Orchakowski? Orchakowski. All right. You are up first, and then Joe, you'll be next.
All righty. Howdy, everybody. My name is Lauren Orzakowski. I am the librarian at Candlewood Elementary, and it has been a rough couple of days, but I just wanted to start off by stating that I want to be at Candlewood, and I fought for Candlewood last year, and I would like to stay at Candlewood. The lack of timeliness in everything that is going on with academic enrichment and librarians has caused a lot of undue stress and caused for really rash decision-making about all of our librarians' careers without being given proper time and consideration to what the adoption of academic enrichment into our job description entails. We haven't received training on it. We don't have all the materials for it, and we have kids in 6 days. And when I read the item description, to me, it sounded like some librarians are going to be moved to elementary, or rather, to junior high and high school, and some of us are going to be split, and those of us who are going to be split will be doing the job of the librarian at Campus A, the job of academic enrichment teacher at Campus A, the job of librarian at Campus B, and the job of academic enrichment teacher at Campus B. And as somebody who has been in the library for a couple years now, you can't do all of those things and do them well. So if this is a question of the value that the academic enrichment program brings to your students, I would highly encourage you to consider what it would mean to have enrichment once a month, because that is what splitting librarians will do. You will have a week of library or a couple days of library, a couple days of enrichment. It's not equitable. It doesn't make sense. And it also doesn't seem right to ask somebody to do the jobs of 4 people. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, Ms. Jo Powers, you are up next.
Hi again. Okay, so the library and instructional technology educator's job description describes them as a teacher, instructional partner, information specialist, and program administrator, that they have to supervise and manage the campus library. They should advance educational technology across the campus. They should help students and staff solve problems, understand how to use technology tools, resources, and digital citizenship. They should be a teacher, materials expert, and curriculum advisor. That is a librarian's job description. I know that we voted some time ago to keep librarians, and in that, they would take on academic enrichment. If that's what has to happen, that's what has to happen. But by splitting librarians, the choice to split elementary librarians between two campuses, you're not going to get an effective academic enrichment program, nor are you going to get an effective library program. Because all of those things that have been listed, they will still be expected to do, but across two campuses, in addition to teaching, again, a curriculum that none of them have been trained on, that is not fully purchased, is not fully here. If you click on the first grade link, it doesn't even exist. So this now is not the time to tell them that they have to split. It's not. And I really urge you to do one of two things tonight. Either sunset academic enrichment so that librarians stay where they're at, and those 7 campuses can have a paraprofessional run library services, or keep academic enrichment, but still don't split those librarians. They won't be able to. I don't see why the fact that we don't have a librarian at 7 campuses means that we should then affect 14 campuses and the programs that they're going to receive. There's 20 elementaries. If 4 elementary librarians are moved to secondary, that means there's 7 with no librarian. Then there's 7 librarians who are gonna split those campuses. That leaves 6 elementary librarians with full-time librarians. You voted that you wanted a librarian at every campus. To do this would, again, only leave 6. And I question how we expect those vacancies to be filled when this is what Judson is making the news for. This is what librarians are telling their librarian friends. This is bad. We don't want this. We don't want this added onus on us. And why would people apply to come here when you hear all the time about library programs and services that are happening at other districts? If you want to attract librarians to those vacant roles, you can't keep adding and adding and adding and adding. And they are not receiving the TRA fund. I have so much more to say. Thank you, Ms. Stanford. We had a really good conversation today. I hope the rest of you got my email. I hope you will consider it. Please don't split librarians, whether you keep AE or not. And the agenda was amended yesterday at 4:20 p.m. Previously, it said cut AE. Yesterday at 4:20, it said don't. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Powers. Yes, and we did receive a bunch of emails. I know some of this was last minute, so thank you to everybody who also emailed in on item 4A to the board. Next up, talking about 3A, Mr. Scott Willis.
Well, let me begin this before I get over there by where I ended a couple of meetings back. Vader, 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 Vader. We have to have a Vader. We know that we have to have a Vader. We know that the Austin, these guys here that are worried about all kinds of things except for what's important once again, have decided to put the onus of fully funding schools on the local districts by not fully funding schools. Yes, this was $8 billion they spent, but this money that you've received doesn't cover the difference in inflation just for what it cost from 2019 till now. You're still underfunded just to get back to 2019 numbers. However, on the other hand, speaking to many of your property owners in this district, not tons and tons, but quite a few around, they're not pro-Vader for very much reason. And I think that there's a compromise in there. I think that this board is going to have to make some hard choices. I think they're coming anyway, even if the Vader passes, there's going to be some hard choices that you show that we can make some more cuts, some deeper cuts, and at the same time, we can maybe go out and talk about the Vader, and I've talked to many of you about the politics of it. That's not appropriate for right here, how we're going to get it passed, and you guys are going to talk about the rate today. There are many more learned people here that can talk about exactly the percentages that you need and how that's going to balance and where it's going to end up and stuff, but we know it has to happen. You, the fiscal guardians here of our school district, can't have a knee-jerk reaction and no new taxes. I mean, it cost George Bush a presidency, the old one, but we can't have that cost us something here now. We've got to do the right thing by our kids, and that's all we're here to do. We got to keep saying that to ourselves. Is that right by our kids? And that's the kids of this district. So I hope that you can really come up with some positive, good team sort of discussions tonight, that we're all moving the same way. I know that this board is, all of you are here for the same reason that I teach. You're here about the kids. Remember that when you're dealing with each other. Remember that we're a team trying to pull ahead in the same direction to get that done. We got to be that team. We got to get on the same page. We got to save this district. And it's now. And I'll end as I began. Vader, 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 Vader.
Thank you, Mr. Willis.
And look, 15 seconds.
You did. You're getting better at your time. Good job. All right. Next up, also discussing on 3A is Mr. Kevin Hoddes.
Thank you. Congratulations to the new board members. I haven't been here to officially congratulate you guys on your elections. Mr. Macias, on your reelection. I don't disagree with Mr. Willis. I think the public should have a right to come out and decide if they want to pay more in property taxes. I also agree stronger than Mr. Willis that I think if we had consolidated schools last year, because you guys have decided to spend a certain amount of money, you've told Dr. Fields this is your budget, that we could have done more than a 1.5% raise for librarians, nurses, and counselors. We maybe even could have saved some positions. But when you guys decided to invest in bricks and mortar and not consolidate schools last fall, that decision led to us losing $4, $5, $6, $7, $8 million now that we are using to keep the schools full. We'll find out soon what our ADA is, what our enrollment figures are. We can take a look at that enrollment data and see if we made the right decision. But if our schools are half full, then we're going to have to start that discussion process in order for you as a district to go sell this to the public. Why do I know this? I've campaigned, helped Miss Ryan. I helped both of you. Mr. Macias called me in to help with the PAC, which I did. I have been out on the streets and block walked thousands of houses several times. Don't believe me? I have the mileage charts. Don't believe me? I have the voter list. I know who's going to vote in this election. I have a taste of what these people are. Miss Lee block walked the heck out of her election. She knows what's going on in her district. That said, I read the slides. They were posted today. And I don't think us investing in, or threatening people with closing schools is going to be a winning message for this district. What's going to be a winning message is to make our nurses, counselors, librarians, those type of people whole, so their pay, their salary increases that you gave them keeps up with inflation, keeps up with the insurance premium and the insurance changes you guys just made, right? The cost of prescription drugs, our employees are going to have to pay more. It's a net loss for my household. And we can absorb it because I work several jobs too, and Amy has a part-time job. But not everybody in the district can do it. So when you're selling it, please sell it as some salary increases for the people that the state didn't make whole. That's all I have to say, and I will support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hoddes.
All right, I gotta go.
Okay, that wraps up public comment. So now we will move on to discussion items and reports. So agenda item 3A, discussion regarding the adoption of the 2025 tax rate for Judson Independent School District in consideration of possible order calling a Vader. Go ahead, Dr. Fields.
Yes, ma'am. Tonight, we have the honor of introducing Mr. Tony Kingman. We voted and approved last board meeting, him as the CFO. He will be coming from South San, and he's kind of in between. They're still trying to pass their budget for September, but he offered to come over. He wanted to be a part of the conversation tonight about giving a little bit of background on what it is, what a Vader is, and then proposing some possible options of what direction we should go in going forward. So welcome Tony, to Judson ISD. We're happy to have you, and you're up. As he starts, I would say this, though. I would like for him to have the opportunity to just briefly introduce himself and then go into the definition of what a voter-approved tax ratification election is. And then he wanted to speak to some of the questions that we had received about the Vader first. And then as he starts into the Vader conversation, feel free to ask any questions after that point that you may have.
Perfect. Good evening, Board President, Board Trustee, and the School Superintendent, Dr. Fields. My name is Tony Kingman. I'm honored to serve as the new Chief Financial Officer for Judson ISD. Before I begin, I want to express my gratitude for the opportunity to be part of Judson ISD. I know I'm joining a team that cares deeply about what we're doing and what is the best for our students. And I appreciate the commitment that the board, the superintendent, and all the staff to the success of the district. So tonight, the presentation reflects the feedback that we have received and the priorities that this board has already identified. So we will begin by addressing your submitted questions and then walk through the key elements of the proposed tax rate election, from financial implications to community impact. So the first slide is what is a voter approval tax rate election? As you know, under Texas law, when the district seeks to adopt a maintenance and operation tax rate above the state calculated limit, it must go to the voters. This process was put in place to give local communities and authorities a way to voice their opinion on the funding level of their schools. Tier 2 and Tier 1 structures was introduced back in 2019 with the House Bill 3, and it changed how we access school funding. And the VATRE is now the primary pathway to secure local dollars beyond the state-assigned tax rate. So the next slide is basically the list of questions that we received from the board, and I would like to take a moment to address this important question. The first question related to the status of the operational efficiency audit. So the operational efficiency audits were approved by the Board of Trustees on June 5th, 2025, with Moke Casey selected to conduct the audit. And per the agreement with Moke Casey, the firm is expected to complete the audit within 3 months of selection. The current projection is for the audit to be finalized and presented to the board in the September board meeting, or no later than 30 days prior to the proposed election date, whichever comes first. I would like to also mention that the audit will provide key data to have informed the voters' decision regarding the tax rate election, which including the cost-saving opportunity across the district operations, the spending comparisons to different districts that have the same size as Judson ISD, staffing efficiency, and program effectiveness. The audit is meant to give voters confidence that the district has carefully reviewed its finance before asking the tax rate increase. I do understand that the board will have to propose the tax rate before the audit is fully finished. The report will still be shared before the actual election. And as you can see from the document in front of you, the guidance from Taxpayer clearly show that, you know, the Vader efficiency audit does not have to be presented to the board before we propose the tax rate. Moving on to question number 2 is related to the status and timeline of the financial solvency plan. Previously, the Board of Trustees requested a financial solvency plan from the superintendent on July 17, 2025 board meeting, and the process of the plan is underway with the following timeline and step. So in August, the district plans to meet with the board financial consultant to beginning discussing potential strategies. And after drafting a plan, the consultant will be invited back to review the proposed action and suggested any additions. And the final version of the solvency plan is expected to be completed and presented to the board by October 17 board meeting, which is within the 90-day window that the board gave to the administration to prepare the solvency plan. So the plan will outline 2 sets of strategies depending on whether the VATRE passes or fails. If the VATRE passes, then the district will need to make some additional reduction to close the remaining deficit, which is roughly 13 million. But the adjustment would be more limited, and some of the suggestions that we come up with right now to address the remaining deficit include cutting some of the overtime and substitute costs, reduce non-payroll budgets in departments by close to 10% next year, reducing staff through attrition, meaning vacancy position may not be filled, but no immediate layoffs. So that is what happened if the VATRE passes with the election. However, if the VATRE fails, more significant adjustment will be needed. The plan may include options such as school consolidation, change to employee benefits, program reductions, or even reduction in force. And we would try to avoid this option at all costs, and that's the reason why we have the discussion today to hopefully be able to present a clear plan and help the voter to understand that VATRE is very important for the operation of the district. Moving on to number 3, the question related to the current deficit and if the district see any expenditure that not included in the budget. So to address this question, I would like to say that the current deficit reflects all of the known and expected costs at this time for the 25-26 fiscal year. It includes the district best estimate based on the information available right now. And the unforeseen and basically emergency costs will need to be bring back to the board through a formal budget amendment to review and approve. So basically, the budget deficit that we have right now reflects every expenditure that we know about. Regarding a specific question related to next level health insurance program, I can say that the cost for the next level program is roughly $250,000 for the 25-26 fiscal year. And yes, that particular expenditure is not included in the 25-26 budget. However, the district have the intention to cover the $250,000 in costs using the remaining funds that we already transferred to the self-funded insurance fund. So basically, in July, we transfer $4.8 million to the self-funded fund. The intention of that $4.8 million is to pay the remaining claims for the self-funded fund. However, the plan is not going to expire until the end of the calendar years, which is the end of December. So at that point, what we're going to do is we're going to look at what left over of that $4.8 million, and hopefully we can use the remaining fund from the $4.8 million to pay that $250,000. And it's worth noting that the district did negotiate with the vendor and receive a one-time credit of $750,000 from next level. which offset a significant portion of the added cost of the implementation of the program. So the program cost is actually $1 million. However, we receive a credit of $750,000. That's the reason why the cost for the program is only $250,000 for the 25-26 fiscal year. Question number 4 related to the projected fund balance through the end of the 26-27 fiscal years. So to answer that question, I would like to refer back to the 24-25 fiscal year, and that basically the year that we just ended. And the fund balance for the 24-25 fiscal years is roughly $79 million as of the most current projection. Now, obviously, we're still going through the audit process for the 24-25, but as of right now, the end of the 24-25 fiscal years, the fund balance is staying at $79 million. If the VATRE is approved and no additional adjustment is made to address the remaining deficit, by the end of 25-26, the fund balance will be reduced to $66 million. Even with $66 million, this level would maintain more than 3 months' worth of operating expenditures, which aligns with the TEA recommendation and contribute to positive of the district's first financial rating. If the VATRE is not approved and no budget adjustments are made, the projected fund balance at the end of 25-26 would drop to roughly $41 million. Now, in this scenario, this would fall below the recommended 3-month operating threshold and potentially affect the district financial rating from TEA. But I would like to stress that we only drop to $41 million if the VATRE fails and we do nothing else to address the deficit, which is unlikely the scenario. Just like I mentioned, we will have to take some adjustment if the VATRE fails. So the $41 million would be the worst case scenario and most likely will not happen. Moving on to the question number 5, which closely related to question number 4, is talk about the district cash flow and the fund balance of the district for the 26-27. So as I mentioned, at the end of 24-25, the district expects to have a fund balance of $79 million. And after that, the fund balance may drop down to roughly $66 million. And if we don't do anything, then eventually we will run out of money by the end of the 27-28 fiscal year. However, that is a scenario if we decide to not doing anything and the VATRE failed. Question number 6, related to if the VATRE fails, is the district intend to only consolidate schools? And the answer is, if the VATRE fails, the fact is the district will face a significant and ongoing structural deficit that must be addressed to maintain financial solvency. And school consolidation is not the only strategy that we are looking at. It is one of the several options that may become necessary if additional revenue from the VATRE is not approved. So the district intention is to first look at the less disruptive cost-saving measures, such as reducing overtime and substitutes usage, decrease non-payroll departmental budgets, or maybe even some of the campus non-payroll budget, implement a reduction in force through attrition, meaning not filling some of the vacancy position. However, if those actions are not sufficient to close the deficit, which I anticipate if the VATRE fails, those actions will not be sufficient to address the deficit, more substantial option will need to be bring to the table, and this could include the consolidation of under-enrolled and high-cost campuses, reduction in employee benefits, program cuts or redesigns, staff reduction beyond attrition. So that are some of the questions that we got from the board and the answer that we would like to provide for today's discussion.
So before he moves on, are there any questions about any of those questions? The board president.
Oh, I had emailed some questions in this morning and just asked them to cover them in the meeting. I didn't know you were going to cover them that extensively,
hey.
so thank you. But those were some of my follow-ups when we got the slides last night, so, but thank you for going over those.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Mr. Macias.
I actually would just like to extend a welcome to you as well. Thank you. Very, very good report. You're pretty solid with the projections about where we would go if those scenarios were, if the Vader were to fail, what that would look like. And I think you stated that's if we did nothing, right? Which
You are correct, sir.
we will plan to make some additional cuts if we need to. And there are other scenarios today, Dr. Fields. Are we going to talk about, well, I should step back. I don't want to talk a lot about the if. My hope and intention is that the Vader will pass, because I think our community knows how important supporting students will be. So we won't really need to be in the let's talk more about what if. Do you feel what we have provided is, I guess, enough of a roadmap, or do you think we might need a more detailed roadmap?
He's getting ready to give a really detailed analysis on exactly how we're going to move forward and what we.
I'm talking in terms of if it fails.
Oh, if it fails, I really don't want to hazard what happens, because at that point, we're going to have to come together collectively and say, now the voters have told us that you guys need to fix it on your own, and we're going to have to make some difficult decisions quick.
Of course.
Because to Mr. Kingman's point, we don't want to wait and not do anything if the Vader is unsuccessful. If the Vader is successful, to Ms. Ryan's point and to Mr. Kingman's point, we're still going to have to do some more efficiencies. But the degree in which we have to get those done, it kind of lightens up a little bit.
Well, and I agree. I think the more detail we go, if it fails, then, I mean, there's a whole bunch of scenarios that would have to be evaluated. And I'd like to focus more on the positive aspect of making sure that we can pass this Vader and how we would move forward that way. It's no secret. If we do not pass the Vader, there will be some very difficult decisions that will have to be made, with the onus on trying not to diminish our ability to provide excellent academic sources to our students. That's a challenge, right? How can you do more when you have less? And that's a problem.
One of the other things I'd add, Mr. Macias, to Ms. Ryan's point, we're not sitting around even now waiting to determine what's going to happen to the Vader. As we go through the year and things come up, we're doing a financial analysis, which will be included in the financial solvency plan as we move forward, and we're making adjustments on our own as we move forward. And we talked about some of those today. So we're realizing efficiencies even as we move through right now.
I guess my only last comment in this assessment of everything, it's always a good practice to look at, again, what neighboring districts are doing. And so those conversations also taking place while we're talking to our community about what other districts are doing.
We just talked about that shortly before we came into the meeting. We were talking about employee and student travel. And a lot of districts are saying, hey, we can have employee and student travel, but if it's going to be out of state, we really have to question whether or not we're in a financial position to provide, absent some type of serious competition that elevated them to that level. We can't afford for students to travel out of state at this point, or employees.
Well, thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Stanford.
Okay. I do think that the taxpayers are going to want to see what we're contemplating for cuts going forward. And they need to hear that we're not just sitting back and waiting to see what happens with the Vader. So I agree with that, Dr. Fields, that they're going to want to see that we're continuing to plan and what we're looking at. I think that's going to have to be part of our information to the community strategy, as well as we'll need to see plans going forward if the Vader doesn't. We need to be moving forward both ways. So I thank you for that. I'm curious, what do you expect us to see in the efficiency audit? What all kinds of information should we see in that?
Yes, ma'am. So the efficiency audit, basically, the first thing from the efficiency audit is to provide the cost-saving opportunity that they find for a school district. So they would be able to identify if any cost-saving opportunity at the districts are available for us to take immediately. So you will see that in the report. And then they will also compare how we operate compared to similar size and similar district based on student enrollment, based on the economic disadvantage, based on the structure and the makeup of our students. So you will also see the comparison between our district and other. And then they will look at staffing efficiency to see how we are compared to other districts in terms of staffing.
Okay, so when do we expect to see that?
It will be done by the board meeting in September.
In September, but we don't need to see that first.
Yes, so based on task board guidance, as you see on in the document in front of you, as you can see, the efficiency audit has to be complete before we vote. So basically, it's for the voters to understand what the district look like in terms of operation. But in terms of to propose a tax rate, we can propose a tax rate prior to receive the efficiency audit.
Okay, so the efficiency audit will include more suggested cuts.
It could potentially,
If they find them.
if they find them,
okay,
yes,
Okay, okay, well, thank you.
yes.
And Ms. Stanford, I found a really good one. Austin did a VATRE a year ago. So if you go on Austin ISD's website, Moat Casey did their efficiency audit, and it's still on their website. So it's a good, if you want to see an example of what one looks like that Moat Casey did and the type of data that you'll get, you could Google. If I find the link, I'll text it to you. But I had found that when I was out just scrumming around. So,
I have it. I'll text it to you, Laura.
okay. All right. Any other questions at this point before he dives into the rest of the slides and start going through a bunch of math? Ready for the math slides?
We're ready.
All right, Mr. Kingman, we are ready for math slides.
Thank you, ma'am. So the next slide talk about why are we considering a VATRE. So this slide shows the fundamental drivers of why we considering the VATRE. So obviously the structural deficit of over 37 million is the main reason of why we're looking at the VATRE right now. And the reason that we have the 37 million is not just because of how we operate, right? It's a lot of things that go into to create the 37 million. So the first thing that I want to point out that we are clearly in a flat or even declining state funding environment. So as you can see, prior to the legislative session that's just passed, the last couple of months, the basic allotment has not had an increase in 2019. And even with the legislative session that just passed, the state only add $55 to the basic allotment, which is clearly not enough to keep up with the inflation, right? The inflation include the cost of living, the cost of supplies, the cost of subscription, the cost of the education
Electricity,
in overall.
insurance, all this stuff.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So in short, the reason we are looking at VATRE because we are operating within a system that highly unfavorable for us to have a balanced budget, and we are trying to be responsible and in how we address some of the challenges. And I think at this point, based on the first rating that we just received yesterday from TEA, and the first rating is basically a rating from TEA that address how the district manage its finances. And
Was that preliminary or just the first rating flat out?
it is the
Preliminary?
preliminary.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And the rating is 94/100, and we receive an A superior rating, which is clearly an indication of the management that we has been doing at the district. Moving on to the next slide. Oh, sorry. Here we go. This next slide clearly shows that the district tax rate has declined consistently over time. Even with the proposed increase of up to 1.1196 cent, we would remain well below where we were just a few years ago. So we are trying to balance taxpayer impact and financial sustainability. So as you can see, in 26-27, the tax rate was at 1.47. And starting in 21-22, the tax rate remained at 1.0346. So compared to 16-17, even with the proposed tax rate of up to 1.11, we still stay way below the previous tax rate.
Mr. Kingman?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know how we compare to surrounding districts with this current tax rate?
Yes, ma'am. We will show that slide here pretty shortly. I think it will be slide number 14.
Right
But
here.
we will get there, ma'am. Yes. So I think here now we are at the meat of the presentation. Let talk about what does this mean for taxpayer. So, sorry. This slide shows how different tax rate would impact a homeowner with a $250,000 house. So I know there's a lot of number on the screen, so I'm going to go this column by column to explain what they mean. So the first column lists the proposed tax rates. The next two columns show the estimated annual taxes with either $100,000 homestead exemption, which basically is the current law, and $140,000 homestead exemption, which is the new law. The fourth column shows the saving from the new $140,000 exemption compared to the old $100,000 exemption. The next one, the light green column, shows the difference in taxes under the proposed TRE compared to the current minimum tax rate using the new $140,000 exemption. And I will go a little bit deeper into that column. And the dark green column basically breaks down the number from the light green column down to the monthly expenditure. I mean, sorry, a monthly cost. The last column shows that the taxes would, what the taxes would be with no homestead exemption at all. So if you look at the chart, for example, in the second row of the light green column, the number is $361.34 saving. And that number is calculated by subtracting the blue number from the purple number. So what the blue number means and what the purple number means. So the purple number represents the estimated tax bill under the proposed Vader with a new $140,000 homestead exemption. And the blue number reflects the tax bill under the current tax rate using the old $100,000 exemption. So as you can see, even if the district will adopt a maximum tax rate of 1.1196, a homeowner with a $250,000 house will still see a net savings of $267.84 due to the homestead exemption. So I would like to take just a moment here to ask if the board need any clarification regarding this table.
Oh, go ahead, Lori, go first.
This is the kind of chart we would need to show the public, but it would need to be simpler than this one, I think. Something that can be handed out where people can find what their savings is going to be rather quickly.
Yes.
Because I wasn't sure which numbers you were offsetting. I was trying to figure out what was producing the numbers. And I don't see the monthly savings if they stayed the same. So that first green section, the first green entry, the top line,
Yes.
I'm just wondering why that's blank, because it should be like $33 a month. That's the best a homeowner can get at this price range, would be $33 a month savings. And if we went all the way to the 111, they would save $22 a month.
You are correct, ma'am.
Correct. So the difference between the best case and worst case is $11 a month or so?
Yes. So when we go out to the public, now obviously we would not list out all of the tax rate. The only thing we would list out is basically let us say that the proposed tax rate is 111, right? So we just look at the last row. So if you look at the last row, with the old law, they would pay $1,679. With the new law and the new tax rate, they would pay $1,231.56. which means that per year, they would still save $267.84. So that it would be the only number that we would show and communicate to the taxpayer to avoid all the confusion. However, with this discussion, the point of the discussion, I think, is to determine which tax rate is appropriate to propose to the taxpayer. And for that reason, we have this complex chart.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Macias.
Yeah, obviously I understand the numbers. I think it's important to note again that you illustrated in the earlier slide what the tax rate used to be at $1.4647, and obviously its reduction. I really believe the reason I've been supportive of the VATRE is because of this scenario. This is not always a scenario when you go for a tax increase that at the end you're going to pay less anyway. So the fact that this is the scenario, I think, gives the VATRE the best opportunity to be supported by our community, because this could change the game, right? If we get that 111.96, it really will change our position in supporting our district. That's correct?
You are correct, sir, and you are absolutely correct in terms of this year would be the year to go out for a VATRE, right? Because this year you will see the change in homestead exemption from 100,000 to 140,000. In a normal environment, the homestead exemption stays the same, meaning that if you increase the tax rate, the taxpayer will have to pay more. However, with this current year, it's created a unique opportunity because the homestead exemption go from 100,000 to 140,000. So the taxpayer would see the saving from that alone. And what we basically ask is, we're asking for the taxpayer, rather just simply realizing the saving from the increase of the homestead exemption, we would use those dollars to invest in our schools and in our students who are the future of the community, right? So that's what we're asking the taxpayer to do this year. Because if they don't vote for the VATRE, yes, they will get a bigger saving. But if they decide to vote for the VATRE, they don't have to pay anything out of pocket compared to prior year. All they got to do is get less saving from the homestead exemption. And obviously, it depending on the value of the house. As I go through the slide, the 250,000, they will see the saving all the way if we adopt a 1.11. 350,000, they will see the saving if we adopt 1.11. But when we go to 550, yes, it will be a small additional cost for homeowners that own a house that costs 550,000. And the same.
Can you show those slides as you go through?
Yes, yes, sir.
Oh, sorry.
Well, and just my final comment, and I thank
Yep.
you again for being very thorough, Dr. Fields, and our new CFO. What is the last name again?
So Kingman.
Kingman, I still need to get that in my head. But what I want to say for the sake of the community that may be listening or watching this later is that, again, we were at $1.47 in 2016. I voted to decrease that tax rate along with my colleagues because we had more money than we needed, right? The basic allotment was increasing proportionally every 2 years up until 2019. And at that point, it stopped. But by then, we had decreased the tax rate to a degree that is not sustainable for the work that we're doing. Inflation's real. Paying employees what they're worth is real. So I see this as really the only course that we need to follow, and look forward to more of this presentation. But totally just want folks to understand that.
I think the question I had was this presumes a person whose assessed value of their home stayed the same from last year to this year. And I think that's kind of the challenge in Judson is economic development-wise, we're very different in terms of high demand and low demand areas. So there are areas of our district where people's assessed values didn't go up, right? And there's whole swaths of that. And then there are swaths of the district that this year went up 10%, their assessed value. And some of those are the slides you're going to get to, down the road. So, when the state compresses our tax rate, not a school board, the state compressed it, it's to offset. So when your value goes up 10%, they try and compress your tax rate 10% so you don't pay more money. So sometimes those tax rate slides are a little misleading because the state compressed it, not necessarily the district. But I do worry about some segments of our population where assessed values did go up, and so they're going to see more of an impact. And then a little to Laura's question earlier, like, this is all great data to have now, but our districts' hands are going to get tied real quick with electioneering laws, right? Like, there is only, in terms of like, we can't produce something like this and hand this out. I think there's a lot of rules about advising people on their tax rates. And so as we go through this process, I know you guys are already working with council, but from a district official standpoint, we're going to have some limitations in being able to distribute some of this data in a way to comply with laws, and the state is watching. The state is watching electioneering stuff, so
I
we
would
got
only
an
say
attorney
this.
general who is watching
Yeah,
districts.
I thought factual information was.
Factual information is.
Correct. There's about advising on your tax rate because there's so many scenarios with different people, with disabled veterans, elderly, all those other types of things. So, yeah, it'll be nice that we have a great kind of write-up, just like we used to get from bond counsel when we go to pass a bond. They would give the board like a whole electioneering presentation on what everybody could do. And
Once we
at
take,
some point,
once we make a decision to move forward, then Dr. Tagana and Mr. Kingman and Ms. Davis will then set forth, go out, look at whether or not we're going to do surveys, look at who we need to consult, and then we'll find out exactly what we can do. But
Yeah.
to your point, as we move forward, and to Ms. Stanford's point, we can put out factual information. We just can't influence people one way or the other. All we're saying is currently at 99 cents, you're paying almost $1,499 for a house of $250,000. Under the $140,000 homestead exemption, you would be paying $1,231, which would be a $260 deduction from the current rate, meaning you would save, there would be a decrease of $22.32 a month in your tax.
well, I think the hard part comes in is the 140 won't have been approved at the time. So that's the
Correct.
problem. We can't promise people the 140 is coming in because we won't know till the election results come out. So we can't promise, I mean, everybody knows the 140 is going to pass. Don't get me
I
wrong.
was about to say,
Don't
to
get me
your
wrong.
point,
We
the
know it's gonna
compressions have come
pass.
pretty consistently.
But we know, nobody's
over the
going to
last-
not vote for
you know.
140. I know that.
Right.
But it's also not a done deal.
Not a done
that
deal.
we can promise people until those election results come out on the 140 and get certified. So it's
Miss-
complicated. That's all.
I asked the same question to Mr.
So,
King. And what was your, go ahead.
I think, I'll let you finish. I have a comment to rebut what Ms. Ryan has said, but go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. So those are the really good point that you brought up, because we did think about the increase in the property value, because that happened almost every year, right? So if you look at 350, you still see a cost saving, and the average cost for a house at the district is 283. So that means that if the house value go up by, let's say, 10%, the homeowner still going to see a cost, a saving from the homestead exemption. So we thought about that, and I think that is appropriate to mention. And related to the 140,000 homestead exemption, as you can, not as you can, but if I remember correctly, a couple years ago, the homestead exemption were at 25,000,
Right.
and then it's go to 40,000, and then it's go to 100,000, and now it's go to 140,000. So with the track record that we already saw from the past, I think that is what we can communicate with the taxpayer. We don't know the 140 is going to pass, but we know that it's go from 25,000 all the way to 100,000 just in the last couple of years.
Well, and I know we've also discussed too, is that 50% of the people who reside in our district are not homeowners. So this exemption does not apply to 50% of the people who reside in the district, and it doesn't apply to any of our businesses. So any tax rate, IKEA's paying more taxes, Bellicera, restaurant, all those people. So that's some other things I know we've talked about in other meetings.
But I
too,
want to be clear. What we're saying is that for the $140,000 not to be successful, you would have to have the majority of the people in this community go in and say, no, I want to pay more taxes. I'm going to vote against this because I want my taxes
Oh,
to be
no, I'm
high.
not saying it's not going to pass. I'm saying
Well, I want to make it clear
I'm
to the
saying
public on exactly
I
what
don't
we're.
know how much we can put on our flyers is what I'm saying, if it hasn't passed yet. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, no, and we'll make
it
that
hasn't,
clear.
so.
We'll make that clear that
Okay.
it's coming up.
Just an asterisk that, pending the passage of this particular. But I want to say that Ms. Ryan did remind me of another point that I wanted to bring forward. We can collaborate with the appraisal district to ensure that we're also educating homeowners to file for their homestead
Homestead.
exemption, which is another benefit in working with our community. I think it's a great opportunity. And secondly, being that I've been a part of a lot of bonds, we'll just have to schedule a session with the board on the hows and what we can do for an election. But there is a lot of flexibility for board members to do a whole heck of a lot. It's administration that's sort of their hands are tied. But as board members, I can go all day long outside of this district property and say, you need to support this Vader. And so obviously we'll teach our colleagues about that.
Next one.
All right, anything else? Otherwise, go ahead, Mr. Kingman, keep rolling.
Yes, ma'am. So as I mentioned, same scenario for $350,000 house. So if you look at the column number 5, all the way to the bottom, you still see a saving of $147.84 per year. Moving on to $550,000 house, which basically the homeowner would see the saving up to 1.0946. So they only see additional cost of $30.66 when the tax rate become $1.10. And the tax rate, the cost for them really is $2.55 per month, which basically less than a cup of coffee per month to support the district Vader.
On a $550,000 house. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so moving on to the last scenario, which is a $750,000 house. So for this particular scenario, as you can see, when the tax rate go to 1.07, then the taxpayer will see additional costs, right? So the cost will be $57.66 per year if we go up to 1.07, but if we decide to go all the way up to 1.11, it would be $27.68 per month, which, in my opinion, not a significant cost for the homeowners who have a $750,000 house. The next slide is basically just a summary of all of the scenario with all of the house value from $250,000 to $250,000. So as you can see, this is the chart to reflect that. The next slide is a single visual for easier reference. Again, we are being transparent as possible so our taxpayer can see the full picture. So it is the same information, just in the visual form. And as you can see, the blue one is basically the tax cost increase, and it only refers to the homeowner who own a $750,000 home, right? For the majority of our homeowner, they will still see a saving even if we adopt a tax rate of 1.1196. So here is a slide that's really important for us and excited me. So as you can see, the proposed tax rate would bring in roughly $24.5 million in new revenue, leaving the deficit to only $13 million if we decide to go up to 1.1196 as a tax rate. Now, I do understand that the Vader isn't a complete solution, but it is a major step toward balancing the budget while, minimizing adjustment to program and personnel. So the next slide, we talk about the tax rate comparison between the surrounding district. So last year, as you can see, just in ISD, we had the tax rate of 1.0346. And if you look at some of the higher end, the higher tax rate districts such as Hallandale, South End, Southwest, San Antonio. As you can see, even we go all the way up to 1.11, we will still not be in one of the top tax rate district in the region. So we talked a little bit about what happened if the VATRE fails. So if the VATRE fails, we would lose access to the additional Tier 2 revenue, which basically roughly 24.5 million. We will face challenges to retaining staff and programs. We would require to reassess the services, staffing, and facility usage. And some of the options are just like I talked before, the consolidation of schools, the reduction in force, or potential cuts to reduce services will need to be a conversation and option that we need to bring to the table if the VATRE fails. So legal and election timeline. So we need to post the public notice to the newspaper by August the 8th. And after that, the board would need to vote for the VATRE at the board meeting on August the 18th. I think the election date is actually November 4th of 2025, and the early voting period is October 20th, 2025. So the next steps, we would, we would have to create a community forums when we communicate the VATRE message to the community. We need to create the messaging plan. We need to have a public hearing for presentation of the efficiency audit, and we also need to post the efficiency audit on Justin ISD website, just like what they did at Austin ISD website. So now I am at the conclusion of my presentation. Thank you again for the opportunity to present this information. I know, some of this conversation is not an easy conversation, and I truly appreciate the board leadership and the high expectation that you set for us with all the question. So please let me know if you have any question, and I would like to open up the floor for discussion.
I was going to say, do you have any comments to get us started? There you go. Go. Why don't you go first?
I would say that Mr. Kingman said the $13 million deficit that would come from 111. That's based on what we calculated for this year's deficit. Like if we're currently at 38 or 37, and that would bring us. Apologize. Thank you so much. Mr. Kingman stated that if we went with the 111, then that would bring us to 13 million on the deficit. There are some calculations that if you were to add them in, right now our 38 million includes a self-funded payment of 4.8 million. We're going to self-insured. That should not be a payment that we have to incur, which is now incurred towards the deficit. So if you were to deduct that 4.8 million from the 13 million, we find ourselves down to about 9 million. So the deficit amount is even smaller. So what we're saying is the efficiencies and cost reductions that we'll have to engage into with the success of the VATRE lead us not to have to do as much in terms of the seriousness of the efficiency. But to Ms. Ryan's point, and she's been saying this for quite some time, if we were to be unsuccessful, then now the voters have told us that they want us to correct it ourselves, and we're going to have to start making some Herculean lifts in terms of decreasing the budget as we move forward. Did I say that correctly, you guys?
Yes, sir.
I'll let you go first.
No,
Ms.
I don't
Ryan.
have, no, go ahead, Mr. Macias.
It says questions, but, comments, I think, are also appropriate, especially when we're talking about something as important as the VATRE. I think what you presented today and what we've talked about today, I see a very clear pathway, a rationale for supporting putting the VATRE on the ballot. Our job, as it's been stated here again, is that we need to convey to our community the importance of why we need the VATRE and what that would mean to our students and to our community. And that's something that Dr. Tagenall and I'm certain Dr. Fields and their team will put together those messaging. I really just see no other way. This is the direction that we need to go, and this is the best chance for our district to balance itself in a degree that can be manageable without cutting programs. When we talk more about consolidation, I think consolidation is like fool's gold. It really isn't going to change a lot because what we're doing is we're adding more students to classrooms, to teachers. That's part of the consolidation model. And then we're leaving holes in the community. If you would have been here, Mr. Kingman, this room was filled to a degree I've never seen when we talked about closing campuses. The goal for this district was to have smaller middle schools this year to address the social emotional need and the academic need. I do believe smaller campuses can help our students, but that needs to be supported. So there's just a lot of promise that I think will be part of our future if we can get this VATRE passed. And obviously the opposite would happen if it fails. So again, I'm fully supportive of this initiative. I think we should go for all 111.96, just based on the fact that we can tell taxpayers, you're still going to pay less. This is just, like I said, not a usual outcome for things. So it's time, and thank God we have this potential pathway to follow.
Thank you, sir.
Go ahead, Ms. Stanford. Oh, yeah, no, I didn't have anything. No, go ahead.
How does the board feel about creating a committee to begin to discuss what kinds of marketing materials we need? Could have board members as well as community members that are interested and could give us input on how do we communicate succinctly and clearly to our community. Any thoughts on that?
Isn't that town hall?
Well, we have to have, but I'm saying have a committee to begin help planning these things that are the ideas for marketing materials, the kind of information to put forward, and yes, public meetings. I don't know, or who else was going to do that?
If you're talking about district communications, the official stuff from Judson, then that is the communications department and
Yes.
Dr. Tagenall.
We'll create a whole information sharing timeline, strategy timeline, and we'll also consider a survey, similarly like we did for the bond, to ask how people like to get their information, ask different questions so that we could get community input, not just residents or people that are connected to Judson schools, but residents within our community. So we will get that kind of information. We plan on scheduling community forums, and so some of our earlier ones, we can ask those type of questions so that we can kind of gauge where we need to focus our efforts.
And what about joining forces with some of the surrounding districts that are also going for the VATRE? Any thought to that?
We are always in communication with our communications friends in other districts to gather ideas. Yes, ma'am.
So can some of us participate with you? Can we, are we allowed?
We are counting on you all participating to help spread information about the upcoming VATRE, yes, absolutely. But you will receive the campaign strategy timeline, all of the things, and messaging calendars and everything. You'll be able to see all of that.
But I mean, could we have meetings to discuss? Maybe with some board members, with community members?
We
To
can do
plan?
that through our forums, yes. I mean, in our earlier forums, definitely.
As a board member, you're free to put together your own town hall and bring people in at your leisure. To your point, Ms. Stanford, we don't have a problem trying to facilitate open discussion, but to Ms. Ryan's point, when you bring in administration, it's very clear on, after we make this decision, how far we can go. So we have to step back, and you can stand out. We can only give the facts. So when we talk about bringing people together and trying to show, now I can say tonight, we need the VATRE. We should get this done. Because you guys haven't passed it yet. So,
August 18th,
got me
you will
on
not
record.
hear those words out of your
but
mouth
after
ever
August
again.
18th, that won't happen.
So as of what? As of the end of
August
this meeting or?
August 18th.
August
So
18th.
we can still say we need the VATRE right now?
He can. We can always say it. The board can always say it outside of this boardroom.
And what I'm thinking Laura is mentioning too about strategy is, obviously, we've had some discussion about it. I plan to visit all of my homeowners associations in my district to really talk about the VATRE. So that would be a strategy that she's saying we would be able to address, all of us going into our communities talking about it. But what more information needs to be persuasive from us? Because you guys are going to be putting together informational. We need to be putting together some persuasive information about why this VATRE is needed. So two different train of thoughts here. And so that's sort of what I think Ms. Stafford is talking about. Having a mindset that we're now thinking strategically and persuasively to put information out there about the VATRE that would involve employees, community members, and that's what I think Ms. Stanford is wanting. So it's different. We probably would need something like that. It wouldn't be a PAC, but a PAC would operate in a similar way where they're putting a positive message. We wouldn't organize a PAC, but we'd organize a community group to be advocates for this VATRE. And I think that's more or less where you're probably thinking, Ms. Stanford.
And with the success of the VATRE, to Mr. Haddis's point, once we decrease on this deficit amount, we get closer to a position to now equal up some of the pay that was left out
Right.
by the state and bring other positions like nurses, librarians, and counselors up with the rest of the teachers. And this affords us that opportunity. But we just want to make sure that we take full advantage of this opportunity as we move forward. So our recommendation would be the $1.11.
So do we just work on our own as board members, or does anyone want to have a committee to?
I would, first, let's see what's going to happen on the 18th, or as we move forward. Tonight, we're just looking for a go-ahead so that we can post in the newspaper, because you have to post for 10 days before you guys adopt on the 18th. So we're going to get started with that, starting, am I speaking out of turn? Go
Dr.
ahead.
Fields, we are requesting consensus on a number to post for the public notice as far as the tax rate.
I thought that's what I
you
just said.
I didn't hear that, I apologize.
So
That's what I
tonight,
heard
that's
him
what
say.
we're looking for. And then what we can do is then post that on Friday. And then on the 18th, we'll actually vote. And then at that point, we can start talking about, hey, this is what we can do going forward. This is how we can get it done. But to say all of that, and we haven't gotten to that voting part on the 18th, could be a little bit premature.
And the 18th was our meeting with Dr. Gibson, right?
Right, but this will be on the agenda.
It happens to be the deadline of the last day we can pass it, and we just happen to have a meeting, so we're going to be able to tag that onto it.
Okay, that's why the 18th keeps coming up. Just to answer Ms. Danforth's question, you and I could be a committee. We'll grab someone else. But we have to do it, I think, on our own and really just kind of then put together a strategy. So I'll work with you, Ms. Danforth, on that as well.
And community members, I know there's people out there that are also interested, so I want to pull them in.
Oh, go ahead, Ms. Kennard.
So as we're talking about the tax rate that we might move forward with, my inclination is to ask for the entire amount that we're eligible for. It doesn't make sense to pay for an election and not have that flexibility to, should the legislature finally step up and fund us better, then we could reduce the tax rate. And that would give us that flexibility later. I am very hopeful that this passes so that we can take care of all of our employees. The legislature didn't let us do that, and we're not in a position, you've heard the deficit. We can't go into our pockets more for people who deserve more money, who were treated unfairly by the legislature. And I want us to be able to do that, and having a VATRE pass gives us more flexibility to address those issues. So I'm inclined to say, let's go for it all.
Thank you.
I think I'll jump in real quick and then see who else had stuff. I guess my concern is there's not a lot of board consensus about what the financial district looks like, right? And so that's kind of the challenge. Again, I'm also someone who's campaigned heavily in this district over the last years and done a lot of block walking myself. And you got to have something to put on a door hanger, right? Like, what am I getting for my money, right? And a bond 2022, you're getting a fence, you're getting a school, you're getting a this, but easy. And easy to get people to come and help and work with that stuff. But I'm having a hard time visualizing the door hanger because we're talking about not consolidating schools. And it's really hard to go knock on a door and say every other school district is consolidating, but we're going to keep schools open that are at 60% because we really like the bricks, right? But that's different than what other districts are doing, which is they consolidated schools and they gave their entire staff a 3% raise, right? They chose the people over the bricks. And that's what I'm watching other school districts do. So that's going to make the block walking and the door hangers really, really hard, because if you're out block walking specifically for pay, for teachers, for counselors, librarians, for staff, for custodians, those are selling points. But I don't think that that's the consensus of our board. If we're going out to block walk to save facilities that are going to cost $88 million to repair, then that's, I don't see the voters voting for that. I've talked to a lot of them, right? Type thing. And so without a clear pathway of what this money is going to be used for and how it's going to academically impact our students, this is going to be a really, really hard sell. And I am very fearful of making false promises to the public, because if some of us are running around saying, pass the Vader or we'll close your schools, and other ones of us are running around saying, pass the Vader and we'll give raises, if we don't have a consensus on why we need this together, mixed messaging is going to lead to failed promises down the road. And Judson, over the last 30, 40 years, let's go back to the scoreboard at Rutledge, right? They don't trust us with money. We've made promises and things like that. And this goes, and those are the people who vote, right? It's not the new people don't vote. It's the people who have 30 years of financial history with Judson that are going to show up at this thing. So I am worried that the messaging will not be true and authentic just because we're not all on the same sheet of music, and I'm not sure if we're going to get there. So I guess that's my concern, because I want to save the people, because the people are with the kids and are making kids learn every single day and focused on academics. And if that means saying goodbye to some bricks, and then that's what you have to do, because the bricks don't teach kids. People teach kids. And so I guess that's just my thoughts.
Well, I'd like to say a few things. First, when we say that, if you don't do this, then this, I pray that it didn't come across that way. But what I am trying to say is that it can't be about just cuts. It has to be about revenue generating as well. And if we put this out and the vote is unsuccessful, then essentially the community's told us, you guys need to fix this for yourself. Well, fixing it for yourself means some hard decisions that are going to have to be made. And we're going to have to make those quickly. And we're not going to be able to come back and redo them, because this is how we're going to have to move forward. That's not a threat. That's just us being upfront about our current situation. In addition, if we are successful, it does open us up for other things that we can do, like compensation and pay. And we don't have to make other hard decisions. And I'm not saying that consolidation is exclusive from the successful Vader as well. We may come back and say, hey, we're just not utilizing this campus well enough. We did that with Coronado. And if we found that situation come up in the future, we would bring that to the board as well. And then the term about the community doesn't trust us, I have to push back a little bit. The 2016 bond, successful after the scoreboard. The 2017 bond, successful after the scoreboard. The 22 bond, successful after the scoreboard. So we have the trust of the community. We just need to be consolidated together saying what's best for the students and having the financial resolve as we move forward is what's best for the students, because it's what's best for the educators that are teaching those students. Just a little bit.
Ms. Jones or Ms. Lee, we haven't heard from either of you.
Yes, I just
Go
wanted
ahead.
to add something. I feel the board consensus is that we want all of our employees, no matter what their position is, to be paid well and to be paid for their background, their schooling. And I feel, while it's small, what we voted for the other night, giving that huge range of employees a pay raise, showed that we value everyone and not just a specific group of people. So I just wanted to add that in, because I think there is a consensus for wanting to pay our employees and to keep them here at Judson.
Ms. Lee, we haven't heard from you. Do you have anything? You
No,
don't have to,
I just,
but
I just want
give you the option.
to double check and ask I'm sorry, if audit efficiency would come first before the solvency plan, right, Dr. Fields, or?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
The
And then-
solvency plan, you gave me 90 days for the solvency plan, which we would come back, I think it's August 17th.
It's October
October
17th.
17th.
Yes, sir.
So our plan is to come back with the efficiency plan. Now, it's Moat Casey that has to come back with the information. But as we said when we brought it to the board, it would take no more than 3 months to get that back. So it's our impression that we'll be giving that feedback in September. But to Mr. Kingman's point, if some of the things that they're looking for is the efficiency in which we use our funds, he brought up the fact that the preliminary report and the financial integrity rating came back, and we're a superior rated district. I don't see them coming back saying, you guys are doing things array, when the state just came in and said, you guys are superior in that area. Now, what will be helpful is if they identify some areas that they're saying, hey, you guys could tighten up here. Well, then we know we can push for that, regardless of what we do in terms of the data.
But I guess it would also kind of like help you with your solvency plan when this come out, right? Okay.
Definitely. And we're working on that now. And our plan is to bring in Dr. Dixon and say, hey, this is what we plan to do. Put that together. Hey, this is what we did. And then bring her back again at the end. This is what we're going to present to the board.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Dr.
Yes, ma'am.
Fields.
I have one more.
Oh, go ahead. Yes, then I was going to go back to Ms.
So
Jones.
I want to push back a little bit on the idea of consolidation and that nobody else on the dais is for that. The reason I pushed back on consolidation is because of the timing. There is a policy, there is a procedure. We have to follow that. We can't last minute make drastic changes like that in the district. I am all for looking at numbers, evaluating how the campuses are used, and in a thoughtful way, in a way that respects our communities, move forward with that, as we did with Coronado Village. So I'm not at all saying that that's not something that we shouldn't look at. We should, but there is a proper way to do it, and shoving it down our community's throats in May is not the way.
Oh, I agree. I'm pretty sure that's why there were so many no votes on that one. That was mine, was there was just insufficient time to, be able to consolidate schools. So,
Ma'am, you were the one pushing for that the whole time, so no.
Actually, I was not, ma'am. That was,
I also have a rebuttal to.
anyway, hold on. Can I go back for one clarification on Ms. Jones, just so, Ms. Jones, I didn't hear a dollar tax rate out of you. I think I heard it out of the other three that spoke. Did you say, Laura, you said? Or
I
maybe you
didn't say, and I actually was going to ask
Oh, okay.
if we, I thought Dr. Fields said we could say up to 111 for the paper, or do we need to make the decision tonight? Because I am leaning toward the 111.
Yeah, I think we have to
Pick one.
pick one, but technically by law, the board can vote up to that dollar amount.
Okay, so that's why I had heard that's why I thought you were also, Laura. So I was going to go back to Ms. Jones on a dollar amount.
Right now?
Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I know, like, Ms. Davis is over there, like, writing notes of, like, newspaper stuff, and so she's, like, watching for, like, nods.
I'm leaning towards going ahead and putting the 111, since we are going to have to pay for it, just going for the maximum amount and putting it on the ballot for the voters.
Yeah, because that's really what you needed was 4 nods.
Yes, ma'am.
Because we're not voting.
Yes, ma'am.
Was 4 nods.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Yeah,
if
4
we're
nods.
just talking about consensus, I'd be interested in what the entire board thinks. Ms. Lee, you?
Oh.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, if the districts really recommend about up to that dollar amount.
Yes, ma'am.
Where it says that we're bringing in more, in which we desperately need, then I'd go for the dollar, right? $1.11,
11 cents.
yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Ryan?
I'm thinking, you know,
Just,
I'm
you know.
thinking. No, I don't need a calculator, no. I don't know, I'm sorry, some of these questions I had asked, I didn't see till right before I got out here, so I thank you for the
Yes,
thorough
ma'am.
response, so.
Ms. Ryan, if I may, I just want to bring up one quick point, right? So with the VATRE, the revenue will come in immediately with the same year. And
Oh, yes.
the consolidation of school, it will take 2 to 3 years to realize the full saving of the consolidation plan, right? Because and with a deficit of 37 million, you know, I think we do need the immediate increase in revenue. So that's the reason, that part of the reason why we suggest to go out for VATRE.
Excellent point.
Yes. No, I'm sorry, I have my campaign hat on tonight, that's where my brain is going, and 12 cents, again, 1 cent was really, really hard to get past. 1 cent for that bond 2022, right after Uvalde, was really, really hard. So, and I guess my concern is, the more the cents get, the harder it gets to pass, right? 1 cent's hard, it's 2 cents harder, 3 cents is even harder, 11, 12 cents starts to
But
get
this is attached to a
really,
decrease.
really hard. No, I know, but that is what it is. So, yeah, no, I mean, I'll go out and start talking to send my feelers out. That's all I can do, you know, is out to all the community members and the elected officials and all those guys and see. What other districts, other than Shirt-Cibolo, who else is going out for Vader? They're the only ones I've heard of.
We don't really want to put anybody out there. I say that, and then I'm getting ready to start naming people, but I
Well, it
heard
would have been on
that.
their agenda to do their efficiency audits. That's why I knew about Shirt-Cibolo, because it was on their agenda to do
I
their
heard
efficiency
Bernie
audit.
is doing one. I heard Shirt-Cibolo, and then I've heard other much bigger districts in the local area plan to do one next year as well.
Next year, though, so, okay. Well, my answer is I'm still on the fence until I talk to more people, but I don't, you got 5 at 111, so I think the penny amount is not a question. So
I'd love
I don't hear a bunch of 103s, 104s, 105s, 106s, so.
I would really love for us, though, to be in. I'm sorry. I would love for us to be on one accord as we move forward, and everybody's singing from the same sheet of music. I understand, but we do have enough to where we can move forward now, so let's go ahead and get that started.
Yeah, they know what to put in the paper, 111.
All right. Thank you so much. Excellent job, Mr.
Well,
King.
I still,
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry,
I
Mr.
still have a
Macias.
rebuttal that I was patiently waiting for.
Oh, sorry.
I appreciate Ms. Canoyer's perspective on the middle school. I do want the community to know that it's been very hard to play offense when we're trying to play defense and save cuts. But the middle school strategy of smaller campus was us playing offense. And I've talked with Dr. Fields many a times. This is our 1 year to see if smaller middle school campuses make a difference in academic outcomes. I've been told by teachers on campuses that it will. So the idea when a community member says we're not consolidating, what we're doing is we're doing what's best for students. And what's best for students is to set them up for success in smaller middle school campuses where we know we have some challenges. So I will sell that to my community because they see the issues that we have at middle school. It's a very critical age. So I want us to succeed in that area, and we want to set the stage for that success. Now, next year, based on enrollment numbers, as Ms. Canoyer had mentioned, we have to reevaluate the validity of being able to continue. But we've set the stage for the district to be successful. And that's really what leadership is about. So I'm looking forward to how this year goes and what impact that does, not only for academics, but for social emotional well-being for our students. I'm excited.
And I'm sorry, I will push back on that rebuttal just real quick because we are trying to be a data-driven district, right? Research data-driven. And the pushback I'm hearing from academic leaders all over the place, and I have personally gone and looked up every peer-reviewed article that exists in the education research database, and there is zero evidence that smaller campuses improve academic outcomes. There is overwhelming evidence that smaller classrooms increase academic outcomes. And the decision the board made was to put more students in each middle school classroom, but less students on the campus. And I'm just saying the data from all of the researchers and from what you hear in the field from our teachers and academic trainers and all of those guys is that that is not a research-based decision that was made. So I just don't want the community to think that that's like what people in education say a smaller campus improves, because it doesn't. It's the opposite. A smaller class size improves. So, and there's teachers would love to share their research with you on that. They would much rather have 22 kids in a classroom instead of 24 versus having 600 kids on a campus versus 800. So.
Well, when we pass the VATRE, we'll make it 22, to your point. But I'm going to tell you, counselors can talk to more students, APs can have better relationships, there's less problems in the hallway when you have more staff to address it. There's a lot of winning scenarios in this thing. Let's just see how it plays out, and I hope you, like me, are praying that it wins, because that means our students win. If you're trying to, I'll stop. But bottom line is, I believe in the strategy. Let's move forward with it.
Dr. Fields, I have to jump in. Part of my research for my dissertation was in this area because I lived it. When I was the principal at Kirby Middle School, we were at high numbers, and it was very difficult with the number of students that were moving around every day. There was a lot of issues that came about because of the sheer number of students that were on the campus. And one of the things I did find out in doing and in pursuing my doctorate is that you can find research to back up anything you want to say. That is the one thing, because if anybody's gone through that process, there's ways to find things to support, because I had to do it. And some of the things I was looking at, there wasn't a lot of research out there, which is why I chose the topic that I did, because there was very little for the site that I was arguing. And so there's, just as there's research out there about smaller class sizes and whatnot, they will tell you that in certain areas, specifically in areas where you have low social economics, where you have high ECODIS numbers, where you have students that are coming from adverse childhood experiences, having less students on the campus makes a huge difference in building the relationships that students do not have outside of school. It makes a huge difference with building that bridge between home and school, with teachers being able to support, counselors being able to support, social workers being able to support the children that happen. And I've been at several campuses. I ran a campus that was only about 800, 750, and I've been at a campus where I was almost at 2,400. I will tell you, numbers make a difference. And it does make a difference when you have the number of staff that can meet the child where their needs needs to be met. Because what I do know is that after COVID, it is not just about academics anymore. It's about the whole child, the mind, the body, the soul. And so I will always advocate for what I know that works, because I lived it and I've seen the results of it.
Yeah, and if you can send us any journal articles you have, because I know I look at peer districts that are very, very similar demographics to ours.
I will send you the search engines that you can go to find that information, because I am busy working on academics in Judson ISD.
All right, well, I'll just say that other similar districts with the same demographics have larger school sizes and their ratings are higher than ours. So again, data-driven districts, so we are happy, the board's happy to look at any data that we may have. All right, you ready with the legislative update? Dr. Fields?
Definitely. I've asked Dr. Goss, thank you, Mr. Kingman,
Thank you, sir.
again.
Yes, and welcome to the team.
Dr. Goss, I'd ask that we limit it to just the things that the board may need to be aware of, and definitely the stuff that we need to talk about in terms of prior to the start of school. That way we can get into your big topic for the evening.
Absolutely, I'll be happy to do that. Let's see. All right, so we're here to talk about the massive legislative update in which there were 8,700 bills filed, more than ever in the history of the legislature, and 255 of those actually take immediate effect. Some of these we have already addressed, obviously like the teacher pay from House Bill 2. We've talked about that just a little bit at our last meeting. A couple of points here are all the ones that took immediate effect that really pertain to education. I want to highlight just a couple of them. One of them has to do with virtual education. It allows us to be able, as a district, to create a program, and it repeals the Texas Virtual School Network. It still exists, but it repeals that. Obviously, the cell phone guidance is a huge one. One of the ones that does affect our administrative staff has to do with House Bill 3372, in which school district employees that are of principal and higher may no longer receive any contractual work that is related to the work that we do. So basically, we are unable to moonlight or work for anyone else and receive pay for the expertise that we have. So that's kind of a new thing, unless the board approves us on a limited basis to be able to do so.
Correct. I'd asked about that one. Did we verify that we don't have anyone right now that needs to request an exemption? I think I'd asked you about that.
Currently, I don't believe we have anyone that needs to request an exemption for that.
We didn't have it. Nobody's moonlighting to our awareness.
But that might be something that, as board members, you might see in the future. If someone were to do some contractual work, say for Region 20, something like that.
Okay, but no emergency moonlighting exemptions are common that we are aware of?
No.
I think we have people who speak for different. I think we have people who speak for different companies and organizations, but not necessarily on salary.
Correct. This is for pay. So this would be, I would contract for pay. You are certainly still able, like I know I do, where I go to a conference and I do a presentation with one of the folks that has worked with Judson, and we're just doing a presentation. I'm not receiving personal compensation. So you were just not able to receive compensation for that.
Okay.
And there are, and obviously, Senate Bill 571 expanded the time frame in which educators have to report child abuse. So that was Senate Bill 571, as well as criminal history record reviews, which our HR department does a fantastic job of. There's quite a few bills that were required to go into effect as of September 1. One of those has to do with library procedures, which TEA is giving us till the middle of September to be able to work with that as well, but you've already adopted that. The only other one on here as of September 1 that the board would need to take action on would be Senate Bill... Which one? Senate Bill 11, which relates to designating a specific time of prayer and/or religious readings of text by either employees and/or students with parent consent. So you will likely see that come up very soon. There are several here in this list that directly affect the board. For example, House Bill 1522. In the past, you had 72 hours to post your board agendas. Now it must be 3 business days. Now, the state has not defined 3 business days, so we're going to do our best to determine 3 business days. The other one is that, let's see which one, that board meetings must include each board member's individual vote as of September 1, so we can no longer list in our minutes 7-0, 6-1, et cetera. It needs to list each member's vote. And those meeting minutes do need to be posted within 7 days of the meeting, as well as any resolutions, and we already record our meetings, so that is there. The other big one here is House Bill 4623, which actually waives governmental immunity and allows a district to be liable up to $500,000 individually should we recklessly or grossly neglect any misconduct in our hiring, supervising, or employing individuals who may have committed sexual misconduct or if we failed to report child abuse. So that goes hand in hand. So that's kind of a new one, but there's no action there. Beyond that, for the remainder of the year, the biggest one here has to do with Senate Bill 12 because it is so large. We have the full year to implement this. This includes everything from parental rights to students' education information and requesting notice and consent for health screenings, treatment, and records. It includes an online portal that we will need to create for our parents where they can submit comments related to district business to administrators and board members. So we will be working on that. Public comments at the board meetings must be prioritized, and it also requires that our regular board meetings be held outside of typical working hours. Senate Bill 12 is also the one that deals with the prohibition of diversity, equity, and inclusion activities in our public schools. It prohibits us in assisting with social transitioning of gender and requires that the board certify that we are in compliance with not hosting any of these things. So that's actually been written into Senate Bill 12. Also, Senate Bill 12 is going to ask us to do facility reporting, and we don't really know what that looks like. This is also the bill that will change the grievance process, and the state will dictate how we handle grievances. And so we are waiting from that information from TEA. The other ones here that are of note has to do with House Bill 6 that deals with there's no longer a limitation on ISS. You can assign a student to ISS, and as long as you review their account every 10 days, you do not have to remove them. There are several things here for school safety, and we are currently working on those. The big one of that has to do with providing some additional equipment on our campuses. And to close out, there's a couple of...
Can I ask one question on that one,
Yes,
please,
ma'am.
Dr. Gosh? On House Bill 6, so we did some updates, because we did the vape
Yes.
and that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But all the, did we not integrate the rest of, I can't remember, I didn't go back to recheck. There's still a bunch more House Bill 6 stuff that we have to put back into the
So everything that
student
we're...
code of conduct and the policy letters.
Correct. Everything that
We just
we're
did the
required to
minimum.
have in the Student Code of Conduct to start the school year with is there.
There.
The other items within House Bill 6 will be developed as the rulings come out over the course of the next year, and those will be added to the Student Code of Conduct as we go
As
into
we go.
future years.
Okay, that's
So
what
we are in complete compliance with what we
Yeah, I
need
didn't
to in
remember
order to start
seeing
the
the
year.
extension of ISS or any of that stuff in there, so I just want to make sure that wasn't a 1 September. We have
No.
the year to get
This
that in.
is, yes, we are waiting on guidance from the state on almost all of these.
What we
Okay.
try and do is wait for TASB to say, this is how it should be worded, and then once that
Correct.
comes in,
Yes.
that's when we start making the
Start
changes
seeing them come
to
through.
local
Correct.
policy and our
Okay.
student.
All
Right,
right.
so
I just wanna make sure
TASB
we
will
didn't miss it.
release, I think it's policy update 127, because you just approved 126. That will have those policy changes in it when it comes out.
Okay, and probably 128, 29, 30, and all the way out through
Correct.
400, because there's a lot.
One of the other things, Ms. Ryan, if there were to be a new policy that came out that kind of pushed in opposite of what we were doing in the Student Code of Conduct, that's when we would stop and make the change. But what we're doing right now is well within the policy.
Absolutely.
They're just telling us we can loosen that policy as we move forward and keep students in for 10 days. But if we just continue with how we do it now, we're within the state.
Yeah, I think, I think I've heard from administrators, some of those limitations were like administratively difficult on them because it was like, you could only do 3 days of this, and then 3 days of this, and 3 days of this. So it was the constant paperwork of having to bop kids through each of those stages because they had so many limits was challenging. So it's like 3 days at home, 1 day, 3 days of school, 3 days at home. So this may, from an administrator standpoint, this may assist them maybe.
It assists a little, it makes it worse to me.
okay.
And the reason why is this. The state is making decisions on increasing 10-day stays in ISS, but they're not collaborating with special ed when they talk about being out of placement. If you put a special ed student in ISS for 10 days, well, now you got a TEA complaint.
Correct.
So we just need more collaboration with other agencies before they make these decisions. But if a student doesn't fall within one of those protected categories, then yes, we can do this.
Okay.
But you
I
can't
think some
do
of the
it
concern,
across.
not a lot of us are big fans of OSS though, because then they're sitting home watching Judge Judy and vaping. So like, that's not helpful. At least if they're in ISS, like we have them, and so hopefully we're doing something versus them just being at home. type thing too, so there may be.
I would tell you that as a principal, if I called in a student to give out a consequence, I saw them push back a lot more on being OSS'd than being ISS'd. Because students, as much as they push back, they like being at school. And when you send them home, they might, I'm not saying that they're not watching Judge Judy and the other thing, but they want to be at school.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think more things in the inventory of administrators to deal with students one-on-one.
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
always
Correct.
good to have in their kit bag.
And I did want to also just add, because we were talking a lot about ISS, and I still have not had an opportunity to bring that item back to the agenda, but I still want to see us discuss a certified teacher in ISS to truly help navigate any potential academic disconnects. And it's still something that is still in my mind.
I believe
as a
it's on the
strategy.
agenda next.
It's on the agenda.
Oh, well then, fantastic. Well, thank you.
So I would also add that House Bill 6 changed the age at which you can assign a student to ISS. I did not mention that. In the past, the student had to be 10 years of age before they could be assigned to that. Now it drops it below grade 3. So so it does expand the age and the grade level by which students can be assigned to that location. It also expands to the OSS that if we can verify that the student would be absolutely unmonitored during that time, the district can make some adjustments to that for ISS versus the other. Back to Dr. Field's point about sometimes the kids are like, I want to be at school, I'd rather be in ISS, so that they have that structure. And finally, I'll end with the ones that will be implemented 2026 and beyond. There's only 3 here that I would really point out. The first one has to do with Senate Bill 25, and this expands understanding of credits for wellness and nutrition, and it creating pre-K PE, which has not ever been a requirement. But the big one with Senate Bill 25 is it states you cannot use physical activity, including recess, as a punishment. Meaning if they are performing poorly in academics or they act up in the classroom, you cannot withhold recess and or physical activity at the site. We have to find another way in which to do that. The second one has to do with House Bill 2 that will expand to our DOI, or the uncertified teacher pay, where it will require us to tier that. And individuals who are uncertified in the classroom would need to have a different pay scale than those that are certified. So that's coming in the future. And the last one is House Bill 100, which will prohibit the use of instructional materials allotment for any items that were rejected by the State Board of Education. We would be unable to utilize those funds if the state board rejects that particular material. So they're removing some of those abilities to purchase those. That would begin in 2026. That is the brief review of all the state legislatures' items over the last several months. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you so much.
I'll just say patience with us, public, on the governance side. There are more changes to how school boards do their business from an administrative in terms of agendas and budget impact statements and all of those things, and when we post things. And Ms. Holmes and I are working very diligently with the attorneys and getting a lot of feedback from the state, because there's some things that are being interpreted in different ways. So we are keeping our eye on the ball on what the best practices are of those things, and we'll be getting agendas and minutes and all those things posted, as quickly as we can, and getting in compliance with all those things. So there may be a few changes to how we do meeting type things, but we're on it, we're working on it.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
all right, anything else from the board before we move on to the next agenda item?
Thank you, Dr.
No, thank you, Dr. Gush. All right, Ms. Stanford, thank you for being patient last week and allowing us to put this to this week, so we could give it a little bit more time and it not be so late. So why don't you go ahead with classroom management, academic performance for secondary.
So here it is, Mr. Macias. So he and I have both been concerned about discipline issues in the classroom, and we know that that's very, very vital to teachers. That's one of the major areas they need help with. And, I mean, we were concerned about it and interested in helping teachers with it before the cell phone thing came up. And now that, I think, will only increase the need for it, for help with it. So we're just looking for input on actions to help offset issues with discipline, one being possibly increase hall monitors. I don't know if the truancy office could help in any way. The other is to have a teacher assigned to ISS to minimize lost instruction time. And some kind of timeout place for kids who have to be temporarily removed from class, not to ISS, not to that degree, but they just have to be removed from class to avoid too quick of a return, because we've heard that quite a bit, that they are taken out because they're disruptive and they bounce right back in, sometimes with a piece of candy. So it's just looking for the district's help and guidance in addressing this issue.
I would ask Dr. Toppin and Dr. Saunders to speak to the recommendation, and you heard some of the considerations. I think it's a little bit different from elementary to secondary. I think you may find more placements into an ISS setting at the secondary level than you would at the elementary level. So if you guys could both speak to that and what you think, what your recommendation would be as we move forward.
So I'll start with elementary. I think that might be a shorter conversation. So you mentioned, and I just want to kind of go back to a couple of things you said so I can answer those. You mentioned a place for kids to be placed that's not ISS so that they have an opportunity to get themselves under control before they go back in the classroom. So we have that at elementary. You will hear campuses call it different names. Some call it a cool-off room. Some call it a redirection room. Some call it a sensory lab. So in essence, because I'm going to be really honest with you, a lot of the behaviors we see at elementary are pre-K through second grade. The ones who need that opportunity for like redirection, because they're trying to learn the social structure and the social contract of school, which doesn't mean that they need a punitive consequence, right? It's like, let's talk about how you can respond differently. So all elementary schools have that. You just might hear it called a different way. But that is for any kid at an elementary campus. I just told you we utilize it more with pre-K through second grade, but the reality is it's for all kids on campus. You asked about ISS. I just briefly looked at some data from last year, and I just looked at 2 snapshots of time. From the first day of school to the end of October in elementary, there were 87 ISS placement days across only 13 out of the 20 campuses. So when we talk about a certified teacher in ISS at the elementary level, I'm not sure that that is a fiscally responsible decision to make, because then I'm wondering, what would this ISS person be doing the days that there are not kids in ISS? I'm sure the principals would say we can find lots for them to do, but the reality is I'm not sure it's utilized enough in elementary to warrant that. I did another snapshot. November to the end of January, 111 days across 17 of our 20 campuses. Now, elementary is staffed a little bit differently when it comes to what do we do with ISS. There is not a specific ISS person at an elementary campus. Sometimes it's the receptionist. I'm going to be really honest with you. Sometimes it's the campus secretary. Sometimes it's an instructional aide, just depending on what the makeup of the campus is. Sometimes it is the principal or the assistant principal. That's no joke. So the reality is they just have to kind of be strategic about, if we need to pull the receptionist, who's the person who opens the door and greets parents, then what kind of system do we have set up to ensure that we have that area covered? I will tell you, one of the mistakes we've made in the past 2 years that I feel like we've done a really good job of rectifying is that because that person typically has 2 roles, I answer the front door, but I'm also in charge of ISS if we have a kid assigned. We had the kid placed up in the front office because that person was doing double duty. We have rectified that now. There is a specific location for ISS so that those kids are away from the front office or the front of the building, so that we can have a designated place to really focus on talking about how do we get them back in the classroom? Like, what were the things that we could have done differently? I will also tell you, and I can't say this across all campuses, but it will be our goal for this year, is to make sure that we have the counselor, the social worker, communities and schools. Some of our campuses have a restorative coach. Make sure that they are in that ISS setting so that they can really talk about what was the mistake that was made, how can we do it differently, and what does that look like moving forward. Does that help with elementary? Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, is there any loss of instructional time that we're experiencing with elementary kids? Is there any issue there?
Yes. I mean, ultimately, when you have a kid placed in ISS and you have the receptionist who is manning ISS during that time, there is going to be loss of instruction. But I will also tell you, this is not a hard and fast rule, but I will tell you the majority of elementary teachers will go by and work with kids that are in ISS.
Okay.
They're not required to. We can't ask them to do that, but that's typically what happens. Now, remember, before the legislature this year, you could only have third, fourth, and fifth graders in ISS. So these teachers understood, okay, my kiddo missed the math block this morning. I'm at least going to go in and touch base, see if they have any questions, because they're receiving the work in ISS.
Okay.
Now, I will also tell you, when you're using an instructional aid to help support ISS, they do have the knowledge to help kids and can always reach out and say, hey, we need some assistance in here with academics, and that's taken care of.
Okay.
And I can attest to everything that Kristen has said, because my son was not always well behaved when he was at school for various different reasons. And he's graduated now, so I can talk about it all I want. But even when he was in first grade, Dr. Taganaw and Dr. Lofton often had Gabriel going back and forth their classrooms, because that's where his timeout room was at. And so I have fond memories of having conversations with those two ladies in regards to that. But everything that Kristen said, I've experienced it as a parent, and I know that it's still happening today, and we're just tightening it up, giving some more protocols for campuses that seem to be struggling with that a little bit. At the secondary level.
Dr. Toppin, I wanted to just stick to elementary first before you go to secondary, so I had a question to respond to Dr. Saunders. Thank you for doing the research. That's part of what we need to kind of see what's happening. But I do believe that a lot of students aren't sent to ISS. So the numbers that are being reported may be underreported because they're not being sent, because they got to be handled in the classroom, right? So, but the students are being disruptive in the classroom, which is causing complications to teachers that I've spoke to on multiple campuses that we need support. So I would recommend, obviously, being fiscally responsible, the potential of maybe hiring someone that only does half the day, 4 hours. That way they can stay in ISS for that 4-hour window and get instruction while we're having the receptionist or AP do some of the work early on. If not, hire someone part-time, only retired teachers. That would be the vanguard. Because what I'm hearing is not a real active solution of how to address students and the accountability that the student needs to be in ISS and not put them right back in the classroom. At the end of the day, that's what teachers have stated. We send a student then, they come right back. And where's the accountability? The student obviously needs more support. And so we now identify a student that needs more support, that's having some other issues. Counselors can come in, as you had mentioned. Other support staff can come in. I just feel there has to be a viable path in elementary to start addressing students and giving them a little more care. And the only thing I can rebut would be part-time retired instructors that are certified, or just hire somebody at 50% to at least help. And maybe it's expensive. We have how many elementary? A lot of elementary
20.
schools. That we may identify the ones with the highest economically disadvantaged population, because I think there's a correlation there too. But clearly, setting the stage again for these teachers and well as the students to get the care they need and not being quick to rush them back to the classroom. I don't know, but I just wanted to put that as a comment.
Sir.
Dr. Toppin?
Yes, sir.
Secondary?
For secondary, there is a dedicated person that is hired for ISS. They get that allocation every single year in middle school and at high school. And that person is housed in the ISS, the designated area, all day, and their job is to take care of any kids that are coming in for whatever length of time that they're coming in. One of the things that, as a principal, I put in place that all of my teachers had to come check in on their students for a designated time frame to make sure the students understood the assignment that they got, provide any assistance, answer any questions, or so they were notified. And so we're getting ready to put those protocols out to everybody, because I just can't assume that people know that that's what they should have in place. And so one of the things we're going to be pushing out this year is that every ISS will have the same type of setup where you have, your teachers know they need to check on their kids, they know they need to go check and make sure they get the work. They are not missing out on assignments. assignment, they're missing out on the direct teach that they usually get in the classroom when they're sitting in front of the teacher. But if the teacher is going in and checking in the kids because they get a 30-minute duty-free lunch, but they also have their conference period, and most of their conference period, what we call our preparation and planning period, is what the state defines it as, is that they have extra minutes in that time that they can go and check on their students that are in ISS. A lot of teachers also provide notes and whatever else that the kid is missing out for direct instruction for that, but we are going to put a protocol guide out to make sure that all of our campuses are operating efficiently in that area. We did a lot of sharing of documents and whatnot, but what I found is if we don't give you steps on how to do it, it won't always happen
My
that
concern,
way.
Dr. Toppin,
But-
is to Ms. Stanford and Mr. Macias's point, and this is to Dr. Saunders and maybe Dr. Taganow as well. They're looking for certified teachers in these roles. So
Yes.
I kind of need you to speak to the efficiency of having a certified teacher at secondary. And then what I heard from Dr. Saunders, I thought, was that the need at all the campuses really didn't justify. And then what are we talking about then, Dr. Taganow, in terms of across the district? So if you guys could collaborate.
Yes, on the secondary level, we still have vacancies right now for core classes, for classes right now, and school starts next week. We're still hiring or trying to hire. There is a scarcity that we're still facing right now across the state, across the nation in teaching. And so for us to take a certified person and put them in ISS all day long, and I went to Taganow because I was like, I need to know what this would total out. If we did it only at elementary campuses, it would cost us around about $1.7 million to put a certified teacher in an ISS setting. If we're talking about all 30 campuses, to put a certified teacher to man ISS, we're talking about $2.5 million. That's with their salary and their benefits calculated together, that's how much it would cost. I would much rather have that person in a classroom teaching students directly than housing maybe 2 or 3 kids during the day. ISS is not like 30 kids at a secondary campus unless there was a huge event that took place that required us to put that many kids in ISS. It's usually anywhere from 3 to 10 kids, 3 to 12 kids on a daily basis. And so for me, the better use to be efficient with our funding is to put that person in a classroom where they're going to impact 120 kids a day, or 100 kids or 90 kids in the day, depending on where they're at the middle school or at the high school level.
So going back to the initial question, I do not think that the numbers in elementary support having a certified teacher in ISS. You mentioned something, Mr. Macias, a second ago about even if it were just a part-time person, I think there could be an opportunity for us to maybe leverage some of those special POPs tutors or things like that to float into ISS. But I will also tell you, when it comes to specific services for students that are in ISS, at the elementary level, they do not miss their RTI instruction. They do not miss their dyslexia services. Those things are still put in place.
They're required.
Correct. So there's some components there that they're still receiving the services. And interestingly enough, our 2 campuses with the highest number of economically disadvantaged students did not have the highest number of students in ISS. And I think a lot of that has to do with those campuses have a very strong restorative justice protocol in place and has been for a while. So there's a lot of really like coaching that goes on with these kiddos as opposed to just kind of fast forwarding to that punitive assignment. And I'm not saying that that means these campuses that had the numbers of ISS did anything wrong. There are some actions that happen on campus that you just cannot avoid it. And to Dr. Field's point earlier, I will tell you at elementary, it's when you're trying to balance the OSS and ISS conversation, he's absolutely right. Kids don't want to miss school. They want to be at school specifically with their teacher. I think Chapter 37, which one of the new pieces that has passed is now called the Teacher Bill of Rights, really gives that opportunity for teachers to leverage their voice more effectively when it comes to returning a kid to class without some sort of transition plan. And we had lots of conversations with principals in both.
Remember that? Yes.
Betty, do you have any more tuna?
Oh, chicken salad.
Oh, yeah.
It's chicken salad.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's my
Okay. I wasn't sure if you were thinking about chicken salad.
All right, the time is 7:49 and we are back from our recess. I apologize to everyone at home. We had a technical glitch and the live feed went down. So we know we want to reset the system. The live feed is back up. We have not started agenda item 4A. I know there's a lot of people at home waiting to watch that. So we paused before we got to that. So, all right, Dr. Fields, if we want to continue with 4A, discussion and possible action regarding approval of proposed revisions to the AET librarian role at the elementary campuses.
Yes, ma'am. I want to turn this over to Dr. Gosh, but I'd like to preface it by saying that there was already a decision made on this, and the decision was to move forward with a librarian at every campus. We found that to be difficult in terms of staffing those positions, so we've come up with an alternative solution just opposed to not having anyone on the campus at all. So, Dr. Gosh?
Thank you, Dr. Fields. I would like to start off with, I know there has been lots of discussion and conversations online, and I know I met today with the librarians as well, concerning why are we bringing something like this that appears to be an efficiency, a week or so before the school year starts. So I want to start off by saying the intent of bringing this, whether it is examining the AET portion of the agenda item or examining the library portion of the agenda item, it is not related to an efficiency, but a desire to make sure that we offer library and the intent library programming as well as the AET programming with the intent of what the board voted on back in May 15th of 2025. So the original motion that was made by the board was to utilize the librarians and to take a portion of their roles and responsibilities and add the academic enrichment teaching role to the librarians, which would allow us to pay a portion of their salary out of title funding. 50% of their salary would come out of title funding and 50% would come from local funding. With the reduction in another program that realized a savings to the district of around $750,000. At that time, we were given the instruction to go ahead and staff fully all of our libraries. I do want to say that in the last year to year and a half, we have had 3 vacancies in our library programs that have persisted for more than a year, where we were unable to find certified and qualified people to fill those positions. At some of those sites, we did have paraprofessionals that stood in to provide some book checkouts and a few other things related to textbooks and whatnot at those sites. And so we were able to sustain a portion, but we absolutely did not have a full library program at those individual sites. As we have moved forward through the summer, we have had some additional vacancies to the point that we now have 7 vacancies across the district. 4 of those vacancies are at our secondary campuses, and 3 of those vacancies exist at our elementary campuses. The vote for the board was to work towards maintaining fully staffed libraries at our 6 through 12 campuses, to have 1 librarian at each one of those campuses, and then to have a fully staffed elementary library program with the split responsibilities of AET as well as library responsibilities for the 20 elementary campuses. What we currently find ourselves in is the inability to offer the exact same programming that I believe was the intent of the board as well as the intent of the district in terms of keeping our library program together due to the vacancies. It is not that we have not searched for individuals. In fact, I can tell you if we were to hire every person that applied to be a librarian, regardless of qualifications or not, we would still have vacancies. So we have not had, and I think that is an issue in speaking with our librarians today. That's one of the things that they said. No one wants to be a librarian in Texas right now. It is a very difficult role to fill in Texas, especially knowing that so many districts are trying to reduce in this particular area due to deficits and other issues. I am open, and we hope that we would be able to keep our vacancies open and potentially find individuals to fill those spots. However, we are a week and a half before school starts, and we are not able to provide that programming. What I want to try to avoid is a situation where we have 7 campuses that don't have a library program. We do not have a paraprofessional at all of our secondary campuses. We do at our high school campuses, and we have in fact had one of our high schools with a library vacancy since December of last year. And so otherwise our middle schools, we do not typically staff our middle schools with paraprofessionals. So right now our middle schools that do not have librarians, we don't have anyone in those spaces. We also don't typically staff our elementary campuses currently with paraprofessionals. So in order to try to keep in meeting the board's objective, the recommendation that we're bringing forward is to create a system where we are able to fulfill both. One thing we want to try not to do is to increase the local budget or have to bring an amendment to you to change the budget that was adopted by the board as we move forward. So by following what we are suggesting tonight, it would not require a change in the budget, and it would not require a change in what was adopted on the local side. Actually, what it would do is it would provide the district with an immediate savings of around $400,000 to the local budget based on staffing in this way. So this is one of the reasons that we are looking at this. It would also provide us the ability at the elementary campuses to ensure that every elementary student at all of our campuses would be able to have a library program that meets the new standards that we adopted through the new local policies and the changes to the legislature, because we would have library oversight in those areas, as well as be able to offer the AET programming for all of our students. Now, I know that we, in thinking about this, One of the things is I know it's impossible for a certified librarian at one campus to be able to be an AET and a librarian at one campus and then turn around and be a full-time AET and librarian at another campus. We don't have 200% of one librarian to be able to do that. And I certainly would not want to offer a campus a fourth of a librarian and a fourth of an AET teacher. And so in order to do that, we wanted to look at the possibility of staffing our secondary campuses, utilizing some of our elementary librarians that we would first request, is there anyone that would be interested in moving to a secondary library position? And if not, then we would begin to look at, do we have any elementary librarians that currently have a library certification or have experience in working at secondary that we could then move to the secondary campus? That would then move the 7 vacancies, instead of it being split, that would move the 7 vacancies to elementary. Pre-ESSER, when we did have our libraries staffed, half with paraprofessionals and half with librarians, we had a system where the librarian would spend 1 week at one campus and 1 week at another campus. That is a similar thing that we are looking at right now, at least for those 7 sites. We are able to provide the AET curriculum in speaking this last week with Ms. Davis and with Mr. Holmes. The AET curriculum may be presented by a paraprofessional, and we are still in compliance with that. And so we would be able to fund the we would be able to fund the paraprofessionals also with 50% local and 50% title in order for them to do that as well. So we would want to create kind of a district schedule somewhat so that we could work with, so that we would also have that oversight. With the recent changes to the adoption of books, the challenges to books, all of the things with library services, I really feel very strongly that we need a certified librarian at each one of our sites to oversee that portion. I think we have some wonderful paraprofessional employees in our district that do a fantastic job of delivering curriculum and checking out books, reading to our students and helping them in those ways. But they certainly do not have all of the skill sets that our certified librarians do in terms of, selecting the books and holding the committee meetings and moving forward in that fashion and presenting to you what that package would look like. So we would want that oversight. So I guess that is, in brief, what we are bringing to you tonight. As briefly as I can, there's a lot of integral parts in this. I know the AET is a big component of that, and we want to provide that. I know that the concern is school starts on Wednesday. What I can tell you, even in rotation schedules for this type of move and situation, most of our libraries, we are passing out textbooks, and we are doing other things through our libraries, and the rotation schedules don't necessarily start immediately in those particular areas. So we would want to take some time to get this rolled out, because we recognize that there is a burden there on everyone to do so. However, with the budget and all those other components, there has been some flux in terms of what this looks like, but our goal here is to try to staff our libraries and provide equitable programming to all of our students across the district.
I think it's important to note 2 things. One, if we had a qualified librarian show up, ready to apply and work in the district, then we would hire that person and find another position for the aide if we already had one in. It's not that we're not trying to hire librarians, they're just not available. And then the other thing would be that we could possibly do a scenario where the librarian may go from one campus to the other, but they just provide the library services, not the, you went over that, not the academic enrichment. So that way they're not finding themselves trying to do 2 different things at 2 different campuses, like you said.
There are some budgetary impacts to changing what the librarians would do in terms of moving forward with that. If you were to take the librarian and make them 100% librarian, we would not then be able to pay their portion of the salary out of the title funding. You would be able then to pay 100% of the paraprofessional salary out of the title funding because it would be AET. But the 50%, but there would be a budgetary impact that I know Ms. Davis or even Mr. Kingman might be able to address in terms of bringing some of that back to the local budget. I know that, there's other ways of handling that. I know if we feel very strongly that everybody just needs to stay in the spot that they're in. I do feel like that we do need to work out something with the shared schedule for the 3 elementary campuses. Then obviously our secondary folks would need to also kind of do the same at the secondary level, having 4 vacancies at that location as well. So,
But the reason why we came back is because we didn't want you guys to see us hiring aides in professional positions and say, that's not what we asked for. We asked for a librarian at every campus. We wanted that too. We just don't have the ability to get that done right now. But we want to put someone in the position as we start off the school year. So,
Can you clarify the execution of it real quick for me? So, like our 6 big elementaries would have one of our 6 full-time librarians, and those 6 would be there all the time and be doing library and AET. And then the other 14 campuses would have 7 librarians and 7 paraprofessionals. And then how are those 14 campuses? Are they doing a week of library and then them and a pair are flopping and doing AET?
So that would depend on, so that's a great question, and it's a little bit involved, so I'm doing my best to answer that. So ideally, we would look at and say, if people volunteered, you may have a librarian from one of our largest campuses that said, you know what, I want to go to a secondary campus. And I think we would need to then look at that and determine, is that the best fit, for that? So if we are offering them the opportunity to volunteer to go to a secondary campus, that would be harder to manage the fully staffed at those larger campuses. So that's one scenario piece with that. In terms of, I would teach library this week and then we would flip-flop, and then I would teach library at the other. That would require a funding shift. That would put some of the library salaries back on the local budget, because we would essentially be saying that the librarians at those 7 campuses would no longer be part of the AET program. And so you technically could do that, but you would need to choose for those 7 for that to go back to the local. It would then require the ones that are at the other campuses to then do halftime AET, halftime library, unless you opted to not have anybody do the AET, if that makes any sense. So there's a couple of different ways of managing that component. The execution of this initially would be, is there anyone that would like to volunteer to go? And then if they did, we would bring those folks in. We would bring the principals in, have the principals talk to the individuals that were volunteering, and try to pair up those individuals with the principals that, and the folks that they felt like would work best for their campus to try to make a match there. We would then bring the elementary folks together. We would begin to examine what that looks like and determine, do we need to make a shift? And then who would we pair up and how that would look. I know there is a concern that we would make this decision tonight, and come Monday, we're having librarian shuffle. I don't see that would happen that quickly. I do think it would take several weeks to work through that process. So ultimately, in order to implement, who's going where, and we actually start at our new sites, I do believe it would be right around the Labor Day holiday. I think would be a good target for us to shoot for in terms of making all of those individual shifts, to give people the opportunity and the time to not only place someone in those libraries, but have those conversations and be able to make that transition to those different roles.
Questions? I see Laura's brain
Yeah,
twirling. Go ahead,
I know, it's
Lauren.
crazy. So there was some request to sunset AE, but to clarify, AE is actually not only a program in and of itself, but it's a funding mechanism too.
That is correct. Ms. Davis may want to answer that.
So the academic enrichment program was brought on several years ago, and because of that program, we were able to fund the GT teachers with half local funds and half title funds. On May 15th, when the board decided to restructure those 3 programs, AET, GT, and librarians, The goal was to be able to keep all three programs at bay in the district and offer all of that, and still be able to utilize the Title I funding. Because we shifted academic enrichment to librarians, and librarians would be offering the library services as well as the academic enrichment program, we're still able to use $750,000 from title funding to pay the librarians at the elementary level. If we were to not offer AET, then we would be coming back next month for an amendment to increase the deficit by $750,000. So I think the goal back in May was to be able to keep all three services. But we reached still a $750,000 savings in May because of the reduction of 10 GT teachers.
And we currently have 7 vacancies at elementary, or 7 vacancies in the district for librarians. So we don't actually have people in those positions right now, but we would need to put a paraprofessional. And that was part of one of the other original submissions for managing the library program. And it has strictly, those vacancies are strictly due through attrition over the course of the last year and this summer.
But you don't feel that we have vacancies because we're asking librarians to do we do though. So but then you're also saying we've had vacancies before the 7 came on.
We've had,
almost 18 months.
Yes, sir. Almost 18 months. In that, we had 2 campuses that have had a vacancy for over a year, and then we had one that did retire at the end of last year, and that campus has not had a librarian since December of last year.
Do you have a sense that requiring the AET programming of the librarians has diminished our applications from librarians?
I would say that in speaking with the librarians, they are not happy with the decision to have the AET as being part of their positions. I think the ladies that even spoke tonight have said that. I know when I spoke with them today, they, want to be full-time librarians and teach that component. But they all also understand that, the decision was made and that, they want to be part of the team and that we need to be fiscally responsible with how we do that. But in general, if you ask their opinion, they're going to tell you, no, we do not want to teach AET.
But then also we have the lack of training and curriculum too, so they're not even prepared to
So the district has the curriculum. We have not gone through the process of training those individuals. One of the issues with that did have to do with, I think, some confusion as we went through all of the budget cuts and all of the components of that in terms of, are we having them teach AET or are we not having them teach AET? I also would say that in not having enough folks at the elementary level to do that, we wanted to make sure that we knew which direction we would be able to go in terms of, providing that curriculum at the campus. And that's one of the reasons that, we've kind of brought it forward, is to seek that direction from you. Can we utilize our staff in a slightly different way, which is, obviously a little bit different from your original intent. Your original intent was we have one person at every site, and we're unfortunately unable to do that. The curriculum is pre-prepared. The lessons are set up. It is, yes, obviously they would need to review those lessons, but they are prescribed lessons. The curriculum is available, and we would work towards training them immediately, in terms of moving forward with the AET curriculum, if that is the direction that we are able to go in.
Can I ask a question? So we were supposed to actualize the $750,000 efficiency, $50,000 efficiency through the attrition of the AET teachers.
The GT teachers.
GT.
Same.
Right, thanks. So, because they were half and half, right. So now, but we're saying they were a full 10. That being said, how many of those teachers have we attrited or have
6
left?
GT teachers since May.
So there's still 4 remaining.
Correct.
So if we were to reinstate the former program as it was, and I'm not recommending that, I'm just saying, you would then bring back how much? What would be the numbers affiliated with that? No,
if we bring
because
back,
they're already here.
If you use the.
4 are already here.
if we use our GT teachers to teach AET again?
Right.
I'm trying to understand your question.
What I'm saying is 4 are still on staff, right? We've only lost 6.
We've lost 6, so we have a total of 14 at the elementary campuses. Our goal was
Correct.
to
So
attrit
4,
10.
the other 10 come almost out of a different pot. And we were only going to decrease by 10.
We can use,
4 are still here.
we can use
So if
those
we brought
4,
back the
utilize
6,
those 4 to teach AET.
Right. And then if we brought back the 6, you could do the AET services that way. And then if you were to then approve us using paras instead of the librarians, then that would be a deduction of how much on the side where we thought we were going to have to use librarians across the board? Does that equal out? Now you have someone to do GT services across the district, and then the library services can be performed by the people who are in the library. I'm just asking. I hate asking a question I don't know.
I'm confused, because we didn't,
Okay,
there was no attrition of GT teachers.
Yes, ma'am.
That was a straight cut of 10.
No, ma'am.
Because,
Through attrition.
well, no, if we go back and watch the board meeting, it wasn't, because those, GT is an add-on. GT is not a certification. GT is an add-on, and all of those are certified classroom teachers. And it was same professional capacity. They are teachers of children, teaching in EC6 with an EC6 certificate, that those were all supposed to be put back into classrooms. And we have classrooms without teachers right now. And we have 4 people over. Why haven't they been put into classrooms teaching children? If we're short certified teachers in core classrooms.
We understood through attrition. I remember sitting in a meeting with our GT teachers, Mr. Holmes, and Ms. Bowie, explaining that it was through attrition.
On May 15th, during our board meeting, the discussion, we brought several proposed cost reductions to the board. One of those was a cost savings of $750,000. The way that we were going to reach that $750,000 was going to be through attrition of 10 of the GT teachers, so that we could revert back to the number of GT teachers that we had pre-ESSER,
Correct.
pre-COVID.
Wow. That's just disappointing. There's gonna be a 4th grade class sitting around our district without a certified teacher, and someone's just sitting as an overage. That is a disservice to our children right now if that's happening. So,
They're just sitting?
No, they're not.
they're
well, they're in a
providing-
position that doesn't exist anymore.
Well,
No, we have 10 GT positions, so, and we have 14 people, and we have certified teachers. 4 of them that do not have a position, there are 10.
Currently, we have 14 GT positions, correct?
No, we have
Correct.
14 teachers, we have 10 positions.
and if I understood Dr. Fields right,
yeah,
Well, that's what I'm just
yeah, I
saying, there's
can- I
teachers out
can-
there not teaching.
I understand, but that's not the battle I was trying to tackle. I was trying to tackle, right now, we have about 7 librarian positions that we're looking at hiring aides for because we can't find the librarians to go into the position. That means that you're going to essentially, and I know I'm oversimplifying this, but half those salaries, correct?
correct.
What does that amount add up to?
$750,000 if we were talking about 10 teachers, right? Because.
So then 350,000.
Yes.
Okay, so that 350,000 then could go towards bringing back, how much did we say it would be to bring back the 6 to provide those services?
So 6 times 75,
Yeah. 450.
450,000.
So we're talking about a $100,000 difference. And then you would have enough teachers to provide the AET services. And then you would have the people to provide the library services where you wouldn't have to go back and forth, correct? Correct?
There would still need to be some, there would still need to be some there would still need to be some sharing of the libraries with those paraprofessionals, because we would still want to make sure that we had oversight in those libraries to
But
be
now
able to
they're
provide
not showing
library
up to
programs.
serve in a capacity, they're just coming to serve and assist. Because the aides are going to provide those library services.
Correct. You could do that in two ways. Number one, you could flip-flop them every other week. That way, the campus had a certified librarian in order to provide the certified services.
Understood.
And the paraprofessional would go to the other campus for that week for book checkouts, for rotation, for whatever was needed. And the following week, they would still
But none of the
flip-flop.
librarians in the district are now required to take on this AET responsibility. They would just
Correct.
be
We could
librarians.
still pair them with the paraprofessional and swap campuses to make sure that every campus had library services, but that would remove the burden of the AET. That is
Does
correct.
that work out financially, Ms. Davis, or are we infringing on the type of funds being used?
As long as we keep the AET program, we are able to fund half of the salaries or the entire position from the title funds, which would alleviate our local. But
Now,
if we get rid of the AET program, then we would be looking at bringing it back.
What I'm suggesting would only be for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Because the goal was to do what the board had voted on in the first place.
Correct.
And then we would have to make that communicated now to where, to your point, at the end of the year, there's no attrition anymore. You knew going in, this was going away at the end of the year. And then we would take those people and maybe put them into a teaching position if something else was, you know what I mean?
Correct. Because I think we're all aware that, we just had the Vader conversation, and that, things can change between now and next year. And
Things
so
can
obviously,
change.
we want to provide as much service to our students and those equitable services for this school year to meet the objective that I think not only the board wanted, but also, cabinet and our campus principals as well.
Just another possibility. I'm not saying that you would have to consider that one. It was just another option that we could put out there. Yes, ma'am.
No, with the with the 100K difference, were you explaining, Dr. Gosh, to my understanding, is it like the librarian would be like 1 week and then the aide would be like swapping, right? But we would have a permanent for the AAT program, the 100K difference that you were calculating earlier? I'm just kind of confused. So how does it work? Like, because you guys calculated the 350 earlier and the 450. So is it my understanding like the librarian versus the aide, there would be a permanent on the AET program? Is that right or no?
Yes, that's correct.
That's
What
the way-
she's asking is, would someone be dedicated to the academic enrichment program other than the librarians as we move forward? And that's correct.
Correct. I believe that's what Dr. Fields was referring to, is to send the AET back to the folks that are here for GT.
Yes.
Is that correct? And then they would provide the AET and the GT, and then we would staff our libraries as they are currently, but then provide paraprofessionals for those vacant positions to move forward.
So there would be a permanent GD programs for each campuses or?
As far as GT programming is concerned, that's separate, right? The GT program, we still have 14 teachers that are offering the services across our 20 elementary campuses. The
okay.
goal is to reduce to 10. And I think sometimes the GT program was often confused with the academic enrichment program. The GT program is that required service that we provide for identified students. Academic enrichment program was an enrichment program that was
Oh,
added.
so that's totally different. Oh, okay,
Yes,
I'm sorry.
but the academic enrichment program is funded through title. So whoever is teaching it is able to be half funded from local and half funded from title. So it alleviates a little bit of our local funding. If we were to get rid of AET, we would just need to realize that we would probably be coming back. If we get rid of GT tonight, AET, sorry, see, I made the
Yes, I know.
mistake, then we would probably be coming back next month with an amendment to increase the deficit by about $700,000.
Oh, just for the AET, okay.
Yeah.
But then the ones that you guys are calculating earlier, to my understanding, there would be a permanent AET on the campuses. It's just the librarian is going to be like 1 week here and 1 week there, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I believe, if I
Is that-
understood, that's how she
I
would
mean, that's
restructure it, yes.
Like one of the option that were going to be on the table.
I
Oh.
just kind of came up with that, but I think
Ah,
all the
That the-
numbers
I
came out
know,
right.
The AET would not be provided through the libraries.
correct?
The AET would not
Would
be
not be
provided
provided
to
through
the
the libraries.
libraries. It
Right.
would be
So it would be
the
provided
AET
through the
teachers.
GT teachers that we
Correct.
have currently in the district. So AET
Correct.
would shift back
AET,
to
okay.
the 14
And then now the
GT teachers that we
librarians
have.
focus on library duties. The only switch that you said would come up is that there would be some going back and forth with the librarians from the aides just to maintain
Just
continuity in those libraries.
To maintain
And then
continuity in the
you-
libraries, the collections, and to also provide guidance for the paraprofessionals in terms of the library lessons that they might be offering,
But they
reading
would
selections
only
and
be
so on.
performing librarian duties.
They would only be performing librarian duties.
All
That's correct.
librarians across the district at the elementary level.
All the librarians at the elementary level. I would still recommend trying to fill the secondary campuses and offering that if they wanted to, simply because that does.
Oh, I would too.
I
I think
absolutely
this
would not remove that part in this. That way, the vacancies are at the elementary campuses that are a little bit smaller, so that we don't have, as we were talking about, the larger elementaries. When you look at the size of Cibolo and you look at the size of Judson Middle, having one librarian manage both and one paraprofessional would be, that would be a lot of students to service, so.
Okay. Dr. Fields? I'm
Yes,
sorry,
ma'am.
for clarity purposes, did you say that the 4 GT teachers, because we have 14, 10 would be servicing GT, the 4
The other 4
current
would then
GT
go back
teachers
to AET services.
would serve AET across
ma'am.
all 20 elementary campuses?
Well, we're saying 10 are going to serve GT, 10 are going to serve AET, which covers all 20 campuses.
Oh, so you're saying hire 6 back?
Right. But if you were to hire 6 back, then that would be
That would cover the
400,000. But you're
750,000.
going to save 350,000 because you're only hiring aides at the library level where you had anticipated and budgeted for hiring a librarian that we cannot find.
I see, so it would be like a wash.
It would be a $100,000 difference, but now AET services are handled across the district by the AET, and then now the librarians can focus on just library responsibilities. The only caveat is to Dr. Gosh's point, for consistency of the library program, those campuses that have aides, they need a librarian to come in every now and then to make sure that we're doing everything the right way. But they're only doing library responsibilities, not AET. So that's what I was saying. If it's not that much of a difference, and we budgeted for that amount anyway, we're talking about a $100,000 difference to get us through where I think the majority of the employees, staff, and across the district would be satisfied with that remedy.
You've lost me on the math. How is hiring 6 more GT teachers only $100,000? I guess,
Because you would
because it sounds like
budget.
we're undoing the $750,000 cut plus hiring 7 more paras. Yeah, I don't know, y'all lost me on the math.
We're missing librarians, so instead of.
You had already budgeted for the librarians. To your point, Ms. Ryan, the librarians were going to take on the AET responsibilities, and then we were going to pay half their salary with, I'm going to wait until
Yeah, we were going to have
finance
30 people, but now we're going to have 40 people. That's what I'm hearing. Total people. 20 GT teachers and 20 librarians or library aides.
Your librarians aren't going to be the librarians because we can't fill those positions. We don't have.
No, that's what
the-
I'm saying, just more people though, library aides.
Well, but you can't equate people to what we budgeted for. We budgeted for a salary of a librarian. We can't get that. And we don't want to go all year with no one in that position. We'd rather
Oh, no,
have
I'm
it.
figuring out the increase of 10 additional GT teachers into the budget. That's the
Right.
part I'm trying to figure out, so that's.
So the AET
where you lost me
teachers
on
can
the cost
be,
savings.
I really need my finance team to, so
So-
the AET teachers can still be paid with half title funds, correct? AET?
I'm sorry, say that again, sir?
If they're doing AET, they could be
paid
paid
with
with time.
Yes, that is correct.
So that's how you got to the 450 marker, correct? Or did you put them all local?
Okay. I'm sorry, I think it's.
But it's still one pot of money, right? It
But what-
doesn't really matter how you pay for it, because if we don't pay for the GT teachers out of Title I, we can pay for other things to help kids with academics, right? We can pay other bills with that. So, use the most restrictive funding source first, obviously, type thing. So it's not all just free money.
But we have the funding available in that category.
Well, but
And
if,
we're
but
in a
if we do,
situation now where we're going to have holes if
But we
we,
could be using that money to help kids learn reading and math.
but what I'm saying is we don't have anyone in the position, Ms. Ryan. We need someone in the library.
No, I'm stuck on the GT teacher portion and undoing another cut that the board made. The board made a conscious decision to go from 20 to 10 and to go back up to 20. Again, it's just the wrong direction, but that's just me. All right, so I guess we need some layout of some sort of proposition that I guess someone can make a motion on, if I'm understanding.
What's the impact on the budget if we cut AET altogether?
if we cut AET altogether, the impact on the budget is about $750,000. That's what's currently being paid out of title. That's what was paid out of title when we had 20 GT teachers, because half of them were getting paid out of local, half of them were getting paid out of title, $750,000. We had 20 librarians. When we said shift AET to the 20 librarians, we basically just shifted the title money. And
And
now
the
the librarians were
responsibility.
getting cut. Now the librarians were getting paid with about $750,000 out of local, $750,000 out of title. We get confused because the $750,000 cost savings came from the reduction of attrition of 10 GT teachers. We've attrited 6 so far.
So we have 6 vacancy, or so we've attrited 6 of the GT, which is the total salaries of approximately 75,000, or whatever we say.
6 times
for the
75,000.
6, whatever that
And
comes
so
up
what is
to.
what is the cost then of the unfilled library positions?
We have 7 unfilled library positions, around 75,000 each. That's
So
That's 525.
525.
And if we were to fill with the paraprofessionals in those 7 positions, it's about half.
yeah.
Yeah, about 245K.
It's about half, about 30, yeah.
245,000 for 7 paraprofessionals. So
And we're going to be able to find 6 tag teachers in a week.
We don't have any certified teachers.
That's what I'm saying.
We don't have any.
So it doesn't make, okay, I'm the only one up here, as far as I know, that actually taught GT in an elementary school. I taught it where I was full-time at one campus. The following year, I was split between 2 campuses, and if you're split between 2 campuses, AET is not going to happen. It's not. Because you're already cutting in half the time those tag kids get serviced. Now, and I'm on my soapbox again for tag, here I go. In other states, tag is considered and falls under the special ed umbrella because the needs of those children are so varied and so wide that they should be given an IEP and dealt with the same way we deal with our SPED kids. Texas doesn't do that. But they deserve to have their 1 year of growth, just like any other student, and the tag teacher can be that person who is the buffer between the classroom teacher and the student, to encourage, to push, to mentor, to be the social emotional learning, man, I had kids, that were able to function in school because I could be that buffer for them. I wasn't able to do that when I was in 2 campuses. I couldn't develop those personal relationships as easily as I could at one campus. For me, it makes sense to cut the tag, give cut the AET, because I've got all these acronyms, cut the enrichment, continue cutting with tag through attrition like we talked about, and fill the vacant spots with aides for library.
That was
And
what
it
we
might be a little bit of a
proposed in the
hit, but
Actual agenda item. But
but-
that means librarians continue with we're just not going to provide
do
that
AET.
service. Not do AET.
Okay.
Understood.
Can you hold on to that thought and not lose it? Do you have that written down?
No.
Hurry up and write that down, because I gotta go to Mr. Macias, but can you please just capture what you said, because that sounded like a complete sentence. So, and we want to be speaking in complete sentences shortly. Mr. Macias, please, go ahead, while she writes that down.
I want to be able to offer quality gifted and talented programming. I also want librarians to do librarian work. I think that's important. We do need to get to the bottom of why we cannot hire librarians. I know that you stated earlier that the state of Texas is having problems hiring librarians, but it would be nice to determine where the barriers are. If it's compensation, if it's the uncertainty, because we've talked a lot.
It's the uncertainty. In a bunch of different districts, it's the first looked at efficiency.
Okay.
So people want to go where they know they're locked in and that district's committed to that program.
And certainly, we still have one more fight in November to go through, but my intent is that I think librarians hold a very valuable place in our ecosystem. But one thing that I will say right now, too, is that we talked about librarians having a closer connectivity to student outcomes. So in the whole grand scheme of things, we should be working on that this year to make sure that we can quantify what those academic outcomes, because librarians are eager to be involved in student success. So again, want gifted and talented. I understand the AET part that Ms. Knoyer, and bless you for being the only one on this board that can talk about that.
I've done lots of different things.
But there's some things are going to have to give, and that's just it. Now, just so I'm clear, because there was a lot of back and forth, AET is where we're receiving title funding from, right?
Yes.
And so Ms. Ryan made the point that we can reallocate those title dollars somewhere else, possibly, right, if we decide not to do AET.
Well, at some point, the title dollars have gone away. We got them back. But true enough, we can do other things with those funds.
Yes, Ms. Davis?
But the title funds that we have, we've already received. What we would have to do if we get rid of AET, next month, we'll be coming back for an amendment to lower our deficit by $600,000 to $750,000, depending on the final number. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
to increase the
I was
deficit.
like, wow, this is awesome. Okay. So,
I wish, yeah.
okay.
Well, not unless you can reallocate. There's another $750,000 we spend money on out of our general fund that can be reallocated to Title I. Trust me, Mr. Kingman can find $750,000 of stuff we spend money on that is also Title I qualified, and you can swap money back and forth. That's pretty darn easy to do.
But salaries that were previously split funded will now have to all go to local.
Correct, but I'm saying he has $750,000 of other stuff in that $271 million that is authorized to be, Title I is authorized to be used for it.
I'm not sure if that's how it works. We submit our paperwork for AET, for example, and we tell the government this is what we're going to do with it, and then we flip. I don't know, because again, I don't do the management part of this district. I don't know if we have the ability to then do something different with title funding.
Is supplanting a thing with title funds? Because you can't supplant, I'm just asking. Is
Yes,
supplanting a thing with title funds?
It is. So if
that
we've
doesn't mean that
previously
you can
been
take that money and just go do something else, because the state says if you're supposed to be using local funds to go do something else, you can't take title funds and go do that, because your local funds are supposed to do that. It needs to be something special for the group that receives those title funds.
And so my last point why I asked that question is I said, and I do believe this, I want librarians to do librarian work. But we also had this conversation in May about our funding situation. Librarians reluctantly said, we'll do AET. We'll do it because we know that's the business need and we need to maintain some sort of direction. So I would say for the year, if AET is saving us funding, to continue to use AET this year only. Because I'm confident, I shouldn't say confident, I feel really good that we can pass this VATRE and have a very different conversation in December about what the future looks like. But right now, librarians are aboard, in my opinion, with the AET. I don't see us having to diminish that if that's where 50% of their funding is coming from. Because I think, to your point, Dr. Fields, we won't be able to reallocate that 750. We'll be supplanting somewhere else. I'm concerned about that. But then again, you guys can let us know. And if Ms. Ryan tends to think that we can. So if we can, then we should. But right now, based on the information you're telling me, AET seems like a good fit because we're getting title money to supplant some of, not supplant, to pay librarians 50%. Librarians are already aware that they have to do AET. Gifted and talented we need to have. And so that's how I'm interpreting everything that you're talking about.
Yes.
Can I jump back to Ms. Canoyer? Have you gathered what your thoughts were so we can know exactly what we think we're discussing? What was your proposition? Would you mind repeating that?
So we had in May agreed to attrit tag teachers to 10 so that they would be sharing campuses. What I said was continue with that. If we cut AET altogether, because our tag teachers are going to be sharing campuses and they can't do the AET, fill the empty librarian spots with paraprofessionals while we work to hire librarians. And I don't know what the economic impact on the budget would be for that. No, no.
Well, if some of it's filled by paras, it would be a little
Yeah.
less than the 750.
Right.
The difference between a para and a librarian. So
The di-
375.
About 35,000 per person, I'm sorry, per person.
Per person.
For paras.
Correct.
And then for that proposal.
So about $260,000 is the impact to the
that's correct.
No
budget to do that.
All right. Is that, before I restate it, is that a motion you would make?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think what I'm hearing is continue attrition of GTs down to 10 in the 10 or 14.
And I don't like doing that. But there are tough decisions to make.
Eliminating AET for this year and filling vacant librarian positions with aides until suitable.
Until we can hire.
Qualified librarians pop up on the radar. Is that a summary of what, did I summarize that? Oop, hold on, I guess.
Yeah, I need to hear the dollars on that.
That's about a $500,000 increase.
Okay. All right. But did I summarize that correct, Ms. Canoyer?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so let's see, discussion of that.
It's 500,000.
Didn't my way cost 100,000?
Well, it's
My way's better.
It's the money moving, 500,000 moving from Title I over to general fund.
True.
Is
but-
what it would be. It's not increased cost, it's increased cost to the general fund, decreased cost to the Title I budget.
The same thing it would have been had we hired the AET, still kept those services, and only had a $100,000 difference with the recommendation I had earlier.
Correct, your recommendation would keep all services and cost less.
The general fund, keep clarifying that, because it's still money we're spending. Certain ones of these are costing more money in the end run of the entire school district. It's just
Correct, I'm
which fund
focused
it
on
comes
the
from.
local
Correct, yes.
funding.
We have lots of money streams to educate kids.
Could Dr. Fields state his proposal again? There's been so much.
Okay.
I'm hesitant.
That was number one. Hold on, I'm gonna write down number two, try and go slow.
No motions have been made. Go ahead.
So my concern is, and I understand what you're saying, Ms. Canoyer, and I'm hoping that GT is more of a training than a certificate. Well, I mean, you know what I'm saying? We may find teachers in district who have that training, the GT certification.
But then we're taking them out of a classroom and we got to find a teacher
I
for
get
that.
it, I get it, I get it, I get it. This isn't all easy. I mean, I
No,
understand
that's
what
okay,
you're
you
saying.
just hit us, tell me your bullet points, what's your course of action?
My bullet points is that currently we have 14 people providing GT, AET, whatever you want to call it, sir.
Just GT.
Just GT. Only because we transferred 4 of them over to GT when they used to do AET. There used to be 10 AET and 10 GT, now there's 14 GT, that means 4 of our AET went to GT.
All of the 20 GT teachers, all of them taught AET.
Right. So now what we could do is take 4 of those, have them provide the AET services, hire 6 other ones. We said 6 other teachers would come out to about $450,000. And is that I need.
So
the
higher
lead on
back.
head nodder.
So higher back so that we're at 20
Back to
again.
20.
Correct.
And 750,000 of those 20 are paid from local and 750,000 are paid from
Correct.
title, which is essentially
Going back.
a wash. Yes.
Right.
And
So
we still
now-
offer all three
But now your
services.
AET services are taken care of.
They're taken care of, not by the librarians.
Right.
And so the librarians would just do
Correct.
library
And do
services.
what with
The
librarians?
GT teachers
Then
would
with
do
the
GT and
librarians,
AET
we
as
would
before.
hire aides for the 7 positions, which is half of what we allotted for, which equates to about 350,000. So now there's a savings there of 350,000. And then you spend the 450, you're talking about a $100,000 difference. You still have your AET services. You have librarians only doing library responsibilities, and then you'd have your aide. Now, to Ms. Canoyer's point, you got to go out and find these people. And we got to make this happen. We'd have to do that. But it would be a $100,000 difference as opposed to a budget amendment for $500,000.
And Dr. Fields, just for clarity, so everyone is clear, when we talk about the 7 vacancies, we would, administratively, we would still look at the plan of moving some folks from elementary to secondary.
Correct.
Creating those 7 vacancies at elementary for that purpose. So I
And
just
we
want to
said
make
we'd
sure that
have
the
the
board is
librarians
clear
work with
that's
those
the
aides to
action
make
that
sure we-
administration would take in that scenario. And also for the librarians.
You can't have high schools and middle schools without librarians in them.
Correct, that's why
That's
we
really
would.
challenging.
Correct, that's why we would, that's
I mean, I
why we
want
would seek
elementaries
to
without
move
them
the
either, but-
elementary folks, some of the, at least 4 of the elementary folks to fill those positions. And then do the paraprofessionals at the elementary and create the shared campus situation there between those 7.
And part of the challenge is our principals need to know, because a lot of this enrichment is on people's master schedules. So if we don't have enrichment people doing enrichment, or librarians, they're gonna need to adjust, right? This is covering PLC time and some of that, so they just, not that it affects which course of action, just in terms of, they need to know and have people, not maybe we're gonna try to hire people, right? Because they've gotta go execute a master schedule with PLCs and specials rotations, like, really quick, and it's already been sketched out, and so.
You're absolutely
bunch of
correct.
principals
You're right.
having-
But that's why we want to
Yeah.
get people in
Correct.
those library positions as well, because
Correct.
they're rotations as well.
Yeah,
So-
I just can't say, I just don't know where you're gonna find certified teachers. Like, we literally can't fill classrooms. So, and if we do, if somebody pops in the hiring queue and they're a certified teacher, the last place, I'm sorry, I want them is in Richmond. The first place I want them is in a 4th grade classroom, teaching kids, so.
I was just saying that in an effort to save the program.
Yeah.
If we're all leaning into, we're just going to cut the enrichment activities, and now the librarians aren't responsible for it, then just understand that that part that we were paying half their salaries now comes back to local, and we'll be making a budget amendment.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't wanna
And then we'll have another
do
750,000 to spend in the Title I sped plan.
Yeah, but then we're still going to get hit with that cost, and I don't know where the other title fund money's going to be spent. I don't know if that will be,
Title I is a very broad, 70% of our students are Title I students, so it's
I'd want it to
relatively broad
cut,
in
though.
what we can spend.
I would want whatever was spent that way to cut something else for us.
I am
Somehow.
sure Mr. Kingman, I can see his brain, he's gonna
So
find
wasn't
something,
that
right?
carryover title money that we were using for this, or no? No? Okay.
I'm pretty sure we can find ways to use the money. But he's gotta go back. He's on day 2.
So Dr. Fields, I'm going to get ready to make a motion, but I want to make sure I understood what you, because I support what you had mentioned. So to be clear, you were saying to do what? I want to make sure the gift.
I could say this. What I'm saying is that if AET, we could hire back the 6. We already have 4. Then we could pay half those 10 salaries with, all of those salaries, really, because they're not providing any other service with the title funds, which would save. And then what we really need tonight and just to be able to give us time to move forward if you guys want some better clarification and better numbers, and we could give that to you. What we need tonight, the reason why we're talking about this, is because the board voted for us only to have librarians. We need permission before we go out and start hiring aides in those positions from the board, because the board directed us to only hire librarians. So at a minimum, we need the board to approve us to move forward with hiring aides tonight in the vacant librarian positions. But what I was saying is, if we were to hire aides in those 7 vacant librarian positions, then that's going to be about $350,000 savings of what we thought it was going to be when we had to hire a full librarian. So if you're saving that $350, but you're bringing on $450, it's a $100,000 difference, but you're maintaining your academic enrichment program. Librarians are no longer responsible for that responsibility. It's strictly on the AET teacher that we put in there. And what we would have to do is have the librarians go in and support the aides as we went forward to maintain and give continuity to the library program.
So based on the discussion here from my colleagues, it looks like if there's obviously some consensus with continuing with AET and with the GT portion of it. So if I simply just made the motion to pay for vacant library positions with library aides, that's all you would need today then?
Yes, sir. And if we're trying to maintain the AET program, then we would have to have permission to hire them.
Yeah,
6
like that's the
teachers.
big question, is AET continues or it doesn't? And that,
So do we
That has
want,
to be
do
decided
you want
tonight.
separate motions then on AET and librarian aides? I'm just asking for you, Dr. Fields, because I can make the motion anyway.
I think that, yes, sir, I wouldn't mind separate motions. Definitely the first motion I need is the ability to where we can hire some aides in these librarian positions so we can move forward.
As a step
Now,
up. Okay.
second to that, from what I'm hearing in terms of feedback from the podium earlier this evening and from Dr. Gosh, we may want to rethink whether or not we're going to have our librarians perform this AET responsibility.
Sure.
Now, 2 of the options are cut the AET completely, or we go back and get those AET teachers where we can still provide that service, but now 100% of that can be paid out of title.
And I do like, again, that part of it, but obviously we'll tackle it one motion at a time.
Yes, sir.
So I'll go ahead and then, I move that we then allow administration to hire vacant librarian positions with aides.
Second.
okay, I have a motion by Mr. Macias and a second by, Ms. Stanford. I'm sorry. I'm just confused, like, I'm a little confused on the motion, but we're not going to determine what their function is right now. We're just going to,
We just need permission to move forward with hiring aides in those vacant librarian positions because we can't find the librarians to go in them. We need someone in those positions as we move forward.
and then we're going to decide next
Correct.
whether they're just librarians or
AET
they're
librarian.
librarians and enrichment.
Yes, ma'am.
Because when we were agreeing to hire librarians across every campus, it was with the offset of the AET funding.
Correct.
So where would that go?
If, again, that would be the offset of the AET program. If we continue to have it with the librarians, then now the librarians and the aides would be paid half title funds because they're providing AET services. But what I heard earlier was that they didn't feel like they could get both of those done effectively. But right now, we're just asking for aides to be hired in the vacant librarian positions. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to provide the library services.
And that's what we're voting.
That's what we're voting. Yeah, that was the motion.
I guess if they're not doing any enrichment at all, I guess it just gets confusing that there's a librarian at a school with 300 kids.
But we're going to do
all
that
day.
separate.
So-
Right now, we just know
Yeah.
that whether
But I'm saying you wouldn't, I'm not necessarily, I guess, sold if they're not doing enrichment, then we need one full-time librarian if they're not doing the other stuff. I guess it's just confusing.
And that's
to me, but
what it's
just-
going to almost be with 7 vacancies at elementary filled with aides. It'll almost be 2 and 2.
Almost all aides, yeah.
So, yeah, so I mean, that takes care of that.
Okay. All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion before we proceed to vote? Hold on. Okay, go ahead, cast your vote. Okay, motion passes 6-0. Okay, somebody have a motion on part 2? Whatever that is.
I move that we hire 6 more tag teachers and require our tag teachers to do tag and academic enrichment.
Second.
I don't think it can, if they do tag and academic enrichment, can they be paid fully out of title funds?
They're split funded.
What if we just have them do academic enrichment only?
But then who does tag?
No, there's already 10, isn't it?
There's already 10.
So another,
Go.
wait,
Go.
okay, one more thing to consider. We can reduce to the 10 GT teachers. The 10 GT teachers can teach by caseload across all 20 campuses and consider hiring paraprofessionals to teach AET and pay those out of title. 100% out of title.
Similar to what we used to do with
I
the
withdraw my
instructional
motion.
technology
Would it
aides,
be the
right?
same
You would teach
amount?
computer lab stuff?
Would it be the same amount?
How much more are
No,
we-
librarians will now be fully funded out of local, and our GTs are funded out of our GT allotment. So the librarians would still be fully funded out of local. It's just another.
But some of them are going to be paras, so they're not going to be fully.
Right, but it's still,
That's a 350.
it's still all local. Right now, we were funding half of them out of
Understood.
title.
But what we're trying to say is how much more, if we're saying that we're going to pay for the paras to do the academic enrichment part, and then the 10 teachers do the tag part?
Yes, and
Then-
for the most part, all of the 10 teachers are covered out of the GT allotment. A little less, but we opted for 10 GT teachers.
So then, how much is then, you're talking about 20 paras?
You're asking us to come up with
I
some
know,
ideas
but
at this moment
we
on the
gotta- I
fly.
can do it on my phone.
No,
It's
yes, it
just
would
a
be 20
calculation of
paras,
35
so
times
35
20
times
is-
20.
I mean, how much? Thank you, 700,000.
700,000.
So before, we thought it was gonna be 450,000, now we're talking about 700,000.
But those would be fully paid out of title. What I'm saying right now is as far as the impact to local, right? Because when we're talking about deficit, we're talking about a local budget. Right now, the librarians or the librarian/7 paras would be split between local and title. The minute we remove AET, and I understand, I'm just trying to explain the finance piece. The minute that we remove the AET program from the library
They all become
side,
local.
then all of that comes back to local. There's going to be an increase. If you're asking us to figure out what that increase is, it would be around 609,000. If we hired back 7 paras and kept 13 librarians, we would come back with an amendment next month for 609,000 to our local budget.
Can I,
Yes, sir.
yes, sir, thank you. Can I make a comment very quick? So with the motion that we just passed, right? Basically, it saved the district, 280,000. That's what the motion just passed. That saved the district 280,000. So now the question over here is if we hire 6 teacher back, right? That would be an additional cost of 6 times 75, which is 450,000. So if we decide to hire the 6 teacher back, which is going to add 450,000, and you subtract the 280,000 that I just mentioned, the additional cost would be 170,000 total to do the first motion and the second motion, basically. So the first motion, we saved 280,000. The second motion, it will cost 450,000. So it means the net would be 170,000, regardless of the title fund or the local funding or any of that. That's basically it. And if, I would need to take a look to see if we can offset that 170,000 to the Title I or not. But if not, at the worst case scenarios, the 170,000 would come out of the local fund if we decide to move forward with the second motion.
I think what we're looking for from Ms. Davis is, Ms. Canoyer stated, how would the tag services be offered? Will the AET only be sufficient for satisfying the academic enrichment? Or do you have to
As far
offer
as
that?
tag services are concerned, right now with 14 tag teachers, we are splitting I'm sorry.
If it wouldn't be 14, if we're talking about hiring 6 more, then 4 of your 14 have to go back to the academic enrichment side. And then you'd have 10, like you used to have, for GT, and then another 10 for AET.
Then we would be able to put
We would be able to put one person at every campus,
Yes, ma'am.
like before,
Mhm.
and that person would be able to split GT and AET services, just like we did last year.
But could they still be paid completely out of title funds?
They were never paid completely out of title funds. Each person was split funded, half local, half title, because they were doing
Because now we can
both
do it across
services.
all 10.
Yes.
We would essentially
All
be right
20.
back to where we started.
We would
Except
be.
Lacey's 7 vacancies she can't fill anyway, we're just throwing some aides in there for now, right? Otherwise, so with this, that would completely undo everything we did May 15th. The only change is she's just plugging her
Yes.
vacancies with who she can find because she can't find people. That's right?
Yeah.
Okay, I got a bunch of
Correct.
nods over
But
there. Okay.
I
Right
was
back to where we
listening
were.
to the feedback that we were receiving from Lacey and the librarians when they were saying they did not feel like they could do both of those positions adequately.
back and
So
forth to
this
the
would take away the responsibility of having to do the AET part and then leave them with the library.
Correct, and go
That's
back to the
correct.
way we used to do things,
Yes, ma'am.
Correct.
with no change. So we just untie
Yes.
May 15th altogether, is essentially.
Pretty
what
much
this
so.
would do with a small savings, just because we can't find the people.
Correct.
Okay.
That would be true.
Except
There,
we're not
now that
taking,
got more clear.
except we're not taking on 750,000. That, we had saved
That is-
750,000 in May 15th. We're not now taking on 750. So it's not,
Yes, we are, because those 10 GT teachers are coming back.
but I thought.
Yeah, but
But-
the aid positions
But
are
essentially,
lower.
they're paid, so essentially, because they're split funded, it's like you're paying the 10 from title.
Yes, but you don't have enough money in your GT allotment to pay for half of 20 teachers, so that was coming out of general
Right, they
funds.
pays for
So that was
10.
coming out of
And the
general-
other
it was
10
for
are paid out
So
of
the other
title now.
10 are, that's where the 750,0and
Oh,
savings to
I-
general fund was 10 of half of the GT teacher portion.
I really don't want to keep going back and forth because it sounds like we're playing 3-card Monte. But what I'm saying is, if you're paying out of local for GT for 10,
Yes.
and we're saying we're bringing back 6, so across the board, now we're going to be split half federal and half local across 10, then you are not paying them all out of local. You're splitting across the board.
I'm just saying,
Yes,
the May
sir. You are
15th plan
correct.
was gonna save us 750,000. We're undoing the May 15th plan, so we're not saving 750,000.
But we're not essentially, ma'am, because if the librarians are not going to be doing AET, right, because of,
Because we don't have enough.
because of the
Correct.
feedback, and we
Yes.
don't have enough to do it, then essentially, we would have to then come back and add that to our deficit.
Correct, which is exactly the way we had it in the budget
So
this
it's
past
a
year.
wash, it's not an increase of 750.
So when we did May 15th and we said it was a $750,000 savings, it wasn't?
From attrition, and we were putting it, again, to the library side. But if we get rid of AET, we can't pay the $750,000 in payroll from title.
I'm
But
just-
if we bring it back to the GT side, then we can pay 750,000 out of title.
And I get it. Ms. Canoyer, do you need to redo, I can withdraw my second if you need to read the motion, or are you stuck, you're going to continue with that motion?
No, I'll continue with it. So my understanding is that the net effect on the budget of doing what I suggested is 170,000.
You are correct, ma'am. So basically, in May board meeting, right, the plan is to reduce the deficit by 750,000. However, if we do it through attrition, meaning it's going to take time, and up until today, we'll be able to reduce it by 450,000. And that's the reason I mentioned the 450,000 for 6 of the position that we already eliminate. So if we eliminate the last 4, right, then you are correct, the number would be 750. However, we still have those 4. For that reason, the deficit only get reduced by 450. And with the first motion, we saved 280,000. So if we basically, you are correct. If we undo what we proposed in May, that means that we have to increase the deficit by 450. However, with the first motion that we just made and passed, we saved 280. So the net effect would be 170,000 increase in the deficit.
For now, until you find a librarian. Okay. So do you want to
All right,
reiterate your motions?
Let me
Ms. Ham,
repeat my
please?
motion. I move that we hire 6 more teachers to do TAG and AET, and have all our TAG teachers do AET.
And I'll second that
Okay,
motion.
so motion by Ms. Canoyer,
It
second
was convoluted.
by Mr. Macias.
Yes.
Okay, discussion? Okay, proceed to vote. Okay, motion passes 5-1. All right, hold on, what do I gotta say? Hold on, we're at the end. My brain's always fried by the end, so. All right, there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned at 9:02 PM.